Chapter 148. Chen Bingyu's heart was filled with excitement. She thought that after joining Qilin Hall, she would be able to learn the knowledge she yearned for. She could not wait another day. However, it had to be at this time. Qilin Hall had been destroyed by someone, destroyed Qilin Hall's equipment, and stolen from Qilin Hall. How could she not be angry? How could she not be angry? Chen Bingyu's nickname was the Ice Queen. Even the headmaster was a bit afraid of her because Chen Bingyu had an eccentric personality. Her methods were cold and ruthless, and adding in her high cultivation base, she did not fear anyone in Central State City. Although she did not belong to any power, no one dared to offend her. This time, the three great families had hit the tip of the spear. A cold spirit energy was released along with a heaven-piercing killing intent. It was enough to freeze the earth, freeze living beings, and freeze souls. This was a storm that came from a distant cold land. It came so suddenly and so abruptly that no one was prepared for it. It instantly swept through several miles of space. The moisture in the air froze and turned into countless ice flowers that danced in the sky. With Chen Bingyu as the center, the cold wave spread out at a speed visible to the naked eye. It spread out in all directions and the ground was covered in ice. The already ruined training hall and flames were instantly extinguished. At the same time, it was covered in a layer of ice. In an instant, a cold winter descended upon the earth. Several masked people were covered in a layer of white frost and it was hard for them to even move. What? This strength, she is. When the cold wave arrived, facing this incomparably strong strength, they did not have the slightest ability to resist. The two sides were not on the same level. They only had one thought. Escape. But they had angered Chen Bingyu. Could they still escape? Chen Bingyu was covered in white spirit energy as she flew into the air. The invisible spirit energy surrounded her body and gradually condensed into octagonal snowflakes. This was a source spirit. A snowflake source spirit. The snowflakes were not created by a cultivation technique, but rather by Chen Bingyu's source spirit. There were all kinds of source spirits that appeared in southern Xia, but a snowflake source spirit had never been heard of before. This was because the appearance of a source spirit reflected the lethality of the source spirit. The tiger source spirit's lethality was definitely stronger than the wild cat source spirit and the wolf source spirit's lethality was definitely stronger than the wolf dog source spirit. The more dangerous the source spirit was, the stronger the source spirit was. Snowflakes gave people a feeling of being light, as if they were harmless things, so as a cultivator with an essence soul, how strong could they be? Now, the power that Chen Bingyu displayed had completely subverted everyone's understanding. The sparkling and translucent octagonal snowflakes were crystal clear, flawless, and as beautiful as a work of art. From few to many, from sparse to dense. Finally, millions of snowflakes gathered together, forming a long ice dragon that circled around Chen Bingyu. Snow and snow cover the sun. Chen Bingyu waved her hands. Millions of snowflakes erupted like a storm. Every snowflake shot out at a speed that was hard to discern with the naked eye. These snowflakes turned into sharp and deadly darts that instantly covered the masked people. There were too many of them, too fast, and too dense, there was no way for them to dodge at all. The snowflakes tore through their protective spirit energy and a terrifying strength entered their bodies, filling their organs and seeping into their limbs. Each large snowflake was made of millions of smaller snowflakes, so when they entered their bodies, the snowflakes scattered and continued to wildly pass through their meridians, making them feel as if they were being cut by 10,000 blades. Ah, stop! Several cultivators did not even have time to cry out before they were brutally killed on the spot. The last one was still running for his life. His cultivation was close to the fourth awakened soul layer, so he could resist for a long time. But his body was sealed in ice and he was already heavily injured. He begged for mercy, Vice Principal Chen, please spare me. I am a consecrated member of the Chu family, you can't kill me. Chu family. Even if you are a royal, you will still die. Chen Bingyu turned a deaf ear to his cries. The terrifying ice and snow energy entered his body and instantly froze his organs. The masked man was completely frozen from the inside out. He had turned into an ice sculpture. Break! Chen Yanyu waved her hands. The ice sculpture shattered into pieces, turning into countless shards that rained down. This kind of death could not be saved even by an immortal. Such a terrifying strength. The awakened soul realm was divided into 3 stages: void soul, illustrious soul, and true soul. Although they were all in the awakened soul realm, there was a very clear difference. An awakened soul realm void soul cultivator could only add in the power of their source spirit, but their source spirit itself did not have a strong killing power. An awakened soul realm illustrious soul cultivator was a step further than the former. They could release their aura, so before an illustrious soul cultivator made a move, they could use their aura to deter their opponents. A late awakened soul realm true soul cultivator was different. Their source spirit already had a terrifying strength, it could even kill experts of the same realm. This woman did not use any cultivation technique, she just used her source spirit to release a powerful strength. Her strength had definitely reached the late awakened soul realm, the true soul realm, and it was not low. The peak experts of the true soul realm could be counted on one hand in Central State. Before the consecrated member of the Chu family died, he called her Vice Principal Chen. Then her identity was on the verge of being revealed. Central State Academy's vice principal, a famous expert, the Ice Queen, Chen Bingyu. What kind of person was Chen Bingyu? Even the mayor had to give her face, and Shen Fengho treated her as a friend. Those unlucky fellows that died in her hands were doomed to die in vain. The 3 great families would not risk their lives against Chen Bingyu for 1 or 2 elders and consecrated members. Even if the 3 great families used their power to fight against Chen Bingyu, they would still have to pay a heavy price. This was not rational. This matter was very strange no matter how she looked at it. Nan Gongyun thought of Chu Tian's strange actions today. She was not a fool, she had already guessed that this was Chu Tian's plan. He had used a borrowed knife to kill them, Chen Bingyu had been completely used by him. Otherwise, even if they had a way to kill these people, the 3 great families would not give up and would even have an even stronger reaction. Borrowing Chen Bingyu's hand to kill them, the result would be completely different. If the 3 great families wanted to counterattack, they would have to think it over. Anyways, they would have to suffer this loss. This fellow was truly as sly as a fox. Aunt Chen, why did you kill them all? Nan Gongyun exaggeratedly said, they seem to be people from the 3 great families, killing them will cause a lot of trouble. Chen Bingyu gave a cold snort and said, I'm not afraid of the 3 great families. They were killed by me, so as long as I'm here, they won't dare do anything to you. Let's go and see if there are any losses. The Qilin Hall had been completely destroyed. This is bad. The phonograph and discs have all been destroyed. Several dozen discs were brought back from the corpses. These discs were covered in a thick layer of ice and most of them had been shattered by the spirit energy snowflakes. Destroyed. Completely destroyed. Nan Gongyun wanted to cry but had no tears. This Qilin Hall can only announce its closure. Everyone revealed a look of disbelief. What was happening? The Qilin Hall hadn't even been open for 10 days and it was actually going to close. How could this be? Although the Qilin Hall had only been open for a short period of time, everyone could not leave this place. Don't. The Qilin Hall can't be closed. Isn't it just a broken house? At worst we can just raise money to rebuild it. That's right, I'm willing to give 100,000. I'll give 200,000. Everyone rushed to raise money. As long as the Qilin Hall didn't close, they were willing to give a bit more money. After all, the Qilin Hall was just too important to them. In just a few short days, they felt like they had been reborn. What if they cultivated in the Qilin Hall for a month, half a year, or even longer? We can't close it. The most anxious person here was not the normal students, but rather Chen Bingyu. Chen Bingyu was a late-stage awakened soul realm expert. Her strength could be considered a first-rate expert in southern Xia. She was respected by tens of thousands of people and had power and wealth at her fingertips, but to Chen Bingyu, these were just worldly possessions that had no use at all. Chen Bingyu was well aware of the bottleneck she was facing. Studying in the Qilin Hall was her only chance. If she missed it, there would be no more. Nangong Yun's eyes turned. If the phonograph is destroyed, we can rebuild it. If the magnetic sound disc is destroyed, we can record it again. Of course, if the house collapses, we can repair it again. But now that the three great families want to make a move against us, I'm afraid. Chen Bingyu directly said, I am willing to personally oversee the Qilin Hall. As long as I am here, they will not dare act rashly here. Good. Nangong Yun's heart was filled with joy and a trace of craftiness flashed in her eyes. With Aunt Chen's support, how could the Qilin Hall not open? How about this, I'll go back and discuss it with the boss. We'll buy a new place and equipment and we'll open the training hall in 10 days. Everyone was filled with joy. As long as the Qilin Hall didn't close, it was good. Nangong Yun waved her hand, everyone can go back. As compensation for the temporary closing of the training hall, we will be selling phonographs in the near future to make it more convenient for everyone to study. The phonographs were going to be sold. This was truly great. Everyone revealed looks of pleasant surprise as they left in satisfaction. That night, Nangong Yun excitedly raised her cup to congratulate Chu Tian. Your foresight is like that of a god. Not only will it solve the problem of the Qilin Hall, it will also create a strong enemy for the three great families, and it will also give Miracle Commerce a strong backer. This is truly killing two birds with one stone. Actually, this plan was quite risky. Although Chu Tian had set up a trap, if Chen Bingyu had made a move without any explanation, then the plan would not have been able to proceed. Chen Bingyu and Nangong Yun's relationship was something that Chu Tian did not know before, so Chen Bingyu did not destroy the training hall as soon as she arrived. This gave Chu Tian a chance to win her over. Chu Tian revealed a faint smile, but speaking of this Chen Bingyu is your elder and has a deep relationship with your family. Using her as a spear, don't you feel guilty? Guilty my ass. This was all done by you, so don't even think of putting it on me in the future. Nangong Yun drank the wine jug in one gulp. Moreover, are you using Auntie Chen as a spear? This is giving her a clear path and using this chance to let her join Miracle Commerce. I think that in a few years, she won't even have the time to thank us. Otherwise, if we don't use her, how could we have such a good chance? Isn't that right? Ha, it's good that you can think like this. As for the reopening of the Qilin Hall, how are your preparations? This place makes too much money and we'll lose several million if we're late by a day. There's no rush for now. I'm currently discussing with the Yun family and they'll give us the new headquarters of the Yun sect. In the Yun sect's headquarters, there are laboratories, training fields, and all kinds of equipment. Our Qilin Hall does not just need to teach, we also need to create a comprehensive training base. Cooperating with the Yun sect is a win-win situation. Nangong Yun's eyes lit up. This was a very good thing. The new Qilin Hall would be built in the Yun sect and they would have the Yun sect's mature research resources, increasing their safety. Even if the three great families were itching with hatred, wouldn't they still be a bit afraid of the Yun family's influence? After all, the Yun family was as famous as the three of them. If the Yun sect and Qilin Hall cooperated, they would naturally benefit from it. It would allow the Yun sect's influence to grow, which was a win-win situation. Calculating the time, the young miss should be in the main city soon and the arrangements here should be done. It's about time to open up Central State. After not seeing them for so many days, I've missed them quite a bit. I wonder how they've been recently. Nangong Yun gave a soft snort and was actually a bit unhappy. It's only been a few days. When I came to Central State by myself, I didn't see you miss me at all. Nangong Yun actually said this kind of thing. Chu Tian was also a bit stunned. Do you still need to miss me? With this kind of personality and strength, who can move against you? Chu Tian said against his heart, who said that? Of course I miss you. I think of you 3-5 times every day before I go to sleep. Woo! So nauseating. Nan Gongyun's face turned red for the first time and she quickly changed the topic. Even if elder sister Qinggu and little sister Yingying have left, it will still take several days for them to arrive. The Central State trials are about to begin and only a small portion of outsiders are allowed to participate. I see that you have nothing better to do, so why don't you go test your skills? Chu Tian had already heard about this matter from Yun Yao and Yun Shao. I have this kind of garlic. Chu Tian slowly stood up. No matter what, the Chu, Luo, and Yi families have destroyed my training hall, so I have to personally take revenge. Moreover, the young miss is coming, so I have to give her a proper welcome ceremony. Nan Gongyun said with an arrogant expression, you can't beat me right now, so let me do this. I can't beat you. You don't believe me. Just wait and see. I'll see you on the stage. What Nan Gongyun said was the truth. Chu Tian was at the peak first awakened soul layer and Nan Gongyun was at the peak second awakened soul layer. Their defensive cultivation technique was the starlight immortal body and their cultivation speed was about the same. The difference between the second awakened soul layer and the first awakened soul layer was like heaven and earth. So in terms of defensive power, Chu Tian lost by a large amount. Nan Gongyun also had a god-level source spirit, so her battle strength was very abnormal. She had the ability to jump levels to fight. Looking at it like this, Chu Tian did not have a high chance of beating her. However, he was being provoked so blatantly. How could Chu Tian endure this? If he didn't teach her a lesson, she wouldn't know who was boss. He gave the money to Yun Yao that night and had her buy the source stone. Chu Tian did not want Yun Yao to run errands, but that thing was too expensive. If a nameless rogue cultivator were to spend a large amount of money to buy it, it would inevitably attract attention. So it was best to have Yun Yao do it. He had earned quite a bit of money in this period of time, but after spending several tens of millions on the source stone and paying the Tianshan Chamber of Commerce's construction fees, he only had a few gold coins left. Money was just a worldly possession. It was a tool to reach a goal and a necessary tool. As long as he could get a return after spending it, it was fine. Chapter 149. The Central State 4 Academies tournament had begun. In this era where entertainment methods were lacking, this kind of pinnacle competition, where powerhouses collided, shocking and exciting, and where dark horses often made a comeback, was enough to make the commoners crazy and obsessed, turning it into a carnival and feast. The contestants for the great competition were normally from Central State Academy. The 4 academies would select 5 groups of the most elite teams, adding up to a total of 20 groups of over 100 people. They would go through the preliminaries, the ranking competition, and the challenge competition before choosing the top 6. This year, the headmaster suddenly decided to allow 2 groups of youths from Central State to compete against the geniuses and elites of Central State Academy. The entire Central State city was stirred. There were several hundred people that came to sign up. With the nature of this competition, injuries and deaths were common. It was just for the youths to show themselves and build a good reputation for their families, but it was not worth it for the large families to send out their best geniuses. It would also not make these rogue cultivators go crazy. Just like the South Sky City Summit competition, it looked like a normal competition on the surface, but it was actually related to the division of benefits. The Central State Great Competition was also like this and it had to be explained from the history of Central State City. 350 years ago. This was a desolate area that had been abandoned for thousands of years. When it was discovered by Southern Xia, it quickly rose up and became the main city of Central State. Other than this superior location, the main reason was that there was a very prosperous ancient city here. Although the ancient city had disappeared, there were many secret areas left behind. The most famous one was an ancient trial tower that was now called the Central State Tower. There was no way to verify when the Central State Tower was built. This was because the scholars had found that the Central State Tower was even older than the ancient ruins. This also meant that the trial tower had already existed thousands of years before the ancient city was built. This trial tower was the reason for the ancient city's formation. The central state tower opened once every 5 years and the participants could not be over 30 years old. The number of people that could participate in the trial could not exceed 10. The 4 great families could obtain one spot and the rest would be decided by Central State Academy. The goal of the Central State Great Competition was to compete for the right to participate in the trial. The headmaster Feng Yunhu changing the rules was not in accordance with the rules, but adding 2 groups of people did not have a large impact on the competition. The large families expressed that they could accept it and the citizens did not have any objections. The more people there were, the livelier it was and there were more variables. Chu Tian did not have much interest in the Central State Tower's trial. However, he could use this chance to slap the faces of the 3 great families and at the same time announce to Central State City, "I, Chu Tian, have come." This was enough to form the motivation for Chu Tian to participate. However, when Chu Tian registered as an ordinary rogue cultivator, he encountered a problem. The participating teams had to be made up of 6 people. It was impossible for a single person to register. At this moment, hundreds of rogue cultivators and cultivators from small clans had gathered at the registration location, hoping to try their luck. There was a sea of people, it was very crowded, they were all young awakened soul realm cultivators, there was no lack of people looking for a team. When did awakened soul cultivators become so worthless? These people weren't even 30 years old, so they could be said to be very young. Some of them were secretly groomed by sects and underground factions, while others were exceptionally talented wandering cultivators. Chu Tian searched for a while. There was a team that attracted his attention. They were all at the second awakened soul layer and each of them had a fierce aura around them. It was clear that they were all experienced people. The leader was a one-eyed man that wasn't even 30 years old. He held a green dragon crescent blade and had a thick beard. He was very eye-catching in the crowd. Isn't that the green dragon blade Chi-Ba? He is a famous person in the mercenary world. I never thought that even he would come to participate. This is going to be fun to watch. Everyone was discussing with each other, they were afraid of the person holding the green dragon blade. This person's strength was clearly very strong. This was the strongest team present, it was a coincidence that they were missing one person. Chu Tian had the idea of joining, so he went up to express his intentions, first awakened soul layer. With just this bit of strength, you still want to join our team? We are aiming for the top 10, aren't you just holding us back with just this bit of strength? Take advantage of father's anger, quickly scram for me. Otherwise I'll break your legs. This was the so-called reputation of a person. A first awakened soul layer cultivator that wasn't even 20 years old and didn't have any fame, of course these people would look down on him. They were looking down on him again. Why were there so many people in this world that looked down on others? Chu Tian said, if anyone thinks I'm not qualified, then we can have a competition. Brat, do you not understand human language? We said we don't want it. Chi-Ba said in a firm voice, scram. The little fox unhappily called out to Chu Tian, telling Chu Tian to teach them a lesson. Actually Chu Tian had this thought, but before he could make a move, a voice came from behind him. Chi-Ba is so powerful. Chi-Ba's expression instantly changed, it's you too. What, you want to join in this mess? 2 energetic young men walked over. Isn't this the underworld twin heroes? The Underworld Mercenary Group is a newly formed mercenary group, but they have already established quite a bit of fame in Central State City. These 2 are the founders of the Underworld Mercenary Group. Not only are they young, they also have great skills. Even the Ye family extended an olive branch to them, but it's a pity they rejected them. The 2 young mercenaries looked at Chu Tian without any objections. Ah! It's you. The 3 of them were stunned at the same time. The 2 young mercenaries were not strangers, they were actually Lin Mu and Fang Han. Back in Yellowstone City, Chu Tian had saved their lives. Chu Tian's lips curled into a faint smile. I haven't seen you in a long time, it seems like your strength has increased by quite a bit. The two of them gave an awkward smile. Not at all, not at all, it's all thanks to you. Qi Ba was speechless and everyone stared at each other with wide eyes. These two young people were the rising stars of the Central State mercenary world, but they were actually disrespectful in front of this nameless youth. Why was this? Chu Tian suddenly had a new idea. You guys don't seem to have enough people, why don't we form a team, what do you think? Lin Mu and Fang Han were overjoyed. This is really great. Qi Ba, you really are a fucking idiot, if this brat joins your team, the two of us would have no chance of winning. Isn't the situation the exact opposite? Qi Ba's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. Lin Mu, Fang Han, you two have been in the limelight recently, I have long been displeased with you guys, I want to use the competition as an opportunity to teach you a lesson. Lesson? Then you'll have to have the ability to do so. We'll see. There were 3 people in a team of 6, they were still missing 3 people, who should they find? Lu Ren. Just as Chu Tian was in a dilemma, a very magnetic female voice came over. It was an extremely beautiful woman dressed in palace attire, she was tall and had a noble temperament, her eyebrows were like a painting, her beauty could topple a city, and she had a classical and gentle feeling of a noble lady, causing people to unconsciously have a breathtaking feeling. Really strange. Chu Tian did not remember ever coming in contact with this beautiful woman. What, you don't recognize me? This beautiful woman's voice was very magnetic, making Chu Tian feel a trace of familiarity. He suddenly thought of something and revealed a surprised expression, you're Kai Dai. Although her appearance was different from before, her temperament and voice were the same. This person was not someone else, it was the Kai Dai he had met in the black market. Because I'm outside, it's not convenient to show my face, I hope Brother Lu doesn't mind. Feng Kai Dai revealed a faint smile, I'm called Feng Kai Dai. Chu Tian nodded and said, I can understand. Brother Lu, I never thought I would meet you here. A young man walked up. Of course, Chu Tian knew this person. Wasn't this Xiang Hu, who had traveled with him before? At this moment, Xiang Hu's aura had become a lot stronger, it was clear he had gained a lot in this time, he had now become an awakened soul cultivator. Other than Feng Kai Dai and Xiang Hu, there was also a youth here. This person was very young, he was around the same age as Chu Tian, he was around 16 to 17 years old. He had a head of long blue hair, wearing a gorgeous robe, and his face was filled with pride. When Lin Mu and Fang Han heard Feng Kai's name, they were both shocked. Wasn't she Shen Fengho's daughter? Feng Kai Dai was very famous in Central State, the main reason was because of her innate clear meridian. The dignified Shen Fengho's only daughter was actually a cripple, not to mention Central State City, even in southern Xia, this was a strange story. What was even more surprising was that Feng Yuntian still regarded his daughter as a pearl in his palm. The resources the Feng family invested in her, it was comparable to the 4 young masters. Because of this, the Feng family was not inferior to the 4 great families, they even had more power. The experts of the younger generation were only the Central State 4 young masters, there was no Feng family member. This made the Feng family fall into a very awkward situation. Xiang Hu has already been accepted as my father's disciple and this is my younger cousin, Feng Qingyun. The 3 of us are here to participate in the great competition and I can see that you're here to participate as well. You have 3 people and we have 3 people, so why don't we team up? The great competition required 6 people to form a team. Now that Chu Tian had 3 people and Feng Kai Dai had also brought 3 people, wouldn't it be just right for the 6 of them to form a team? Chu Tian did not even have time to speak. The strength of these 2 mercenaries is not bad, they have the qualifications to join our team. Feng Qingyun gave a cold snort and looked at Chu Tian with disdain, as for you? Too weak. Leave by yourself. Feng Kai Dai couldn't help feeling a bit angry, I won't allow you to insult my friend. Insult? Did I insult him? I only spoke the truth, the weak should have the awareness of the weak. Even those dirty mercenaries don't want him to join us. What qualifications does he have to join us? If he doesn't have the strength, then why is he joining us? This kind of competition is not something he should come to. Feng Qingyun's face was filled with arrogance as he said to Chu Tian in a provocative manner, "You're not convinced? How about we have a fight?" "Shut up." Feng Kaidai knew her cousin's personality and knew that this cousin was not simple. She quickly stood in front of Feng Qingyun. "Did you forget what my father said? I'm the one leading the team today, so everything is up to me. If I say he can join, then he can join." "Humph, I knew that you would bring up Shen Fengho again. You can only rely on your father for the rest of your life." Feng Qingyun crossed his arms and walked away with an unhappy expression, "But since you've brought up Shen Fengho to suppress me, then you can do whatever you want. It's just another foil." Feng Kaidai stood there with an awkward expression. Chapter 150. Feng Qingyun had a cultivation technique to hide his aura. If Chu Tian did not open his mind's eye, he could not feel the other side's strength. But with this kind of arrogant attitude, not even giving Feng Kaidai any face, he should have some qualifications to be arrogant. Feng Qingyun and Feng Kaidai were members of the Feng family and not Central State Academy students. The reason they could participate in this competition was because of the family's rules. From this matter, it could be seen that the dean's rules were not changed for their own family. The Feng family must have placed high hopes on these two people. Feng Kaidai said with a helpless expression, "Qingyun is my second uncle's son. He has been studying abroad for the past few years and has come back to participate in this competition. He has never had any good impressions of me since he was young and even had many misunderstandings towards me. So when he saw that you have a good relationship with me, it was hard to avoid making things difficult for him. He was just a brat that was still wet behind the ears." Although his words were somewhat insulting, as long as it was not too excessive, out of respect for Feng Kaidai, Chu Tian would not care about it like a child. The six of them formed a group. Feng Kaidai became the leader of the group and signed up for the competition. Now that the competition was underway, the groups would fight against each other and the group that won would fight in the next round. Only 2 groups would participate in the competition. There were over 10 participating groups and they were all famous rogue cultivators and mercenaries in Central State City. The Central State Academy's decision to change the rules was too sudden and the news had not yet spread to the various cities and towns. The outsiders could not come to Central State City to participate in the competition. Everyone began to draw lots to decide their opponents. Feng Katie's team against the Taurus team. The first opponent was a group of mercenaries and rogue cultivators. There were several small mercenary group leaders, so they should have some strength. Feng Kaidai was filled with confidence. "Let me go." Chu Tian could feel that Feng Katie's strength was above the second awakened soul layer. In terms of cultivation base, she was several levels higher than Chu Tian. Feng Kaidai was Shen Fengho and Feng Yintian's daughter, so the cultivation resources she had were not something rogue cultivators could compare to. Dang! The copper type was struck. The competition had officially begun. Kill! The 6 members of the Golden Bull team all awakened the power of their source spirits and charged out from different directions. All kinds of fierce attacks rained down like rain. Feng Kaidai was calm and unhurried. Like an illusory butterfly, her delicate body turned into an afterimage as she continuously moved horizontally and flashed. Her speed was so fast that it was hard to see with the naked eye. The Taurus mercenaries couldn't even touch the corner of her clothes. What a powerful movement technique! While the Taurus team was shocked, they also had a bad feeling. Feng Katie's legs lightly leaped up like a graceful bird soaring into the sky. Green essence force blossomed out and lingered around her body. Creak! In an instant, a clear ringing sound rang out. A massive green bird rushed out of Feng Katie's body. This bird was incredibly majestic, and its body was covered with mysterious runes. A noble and extraordinary aura covered the entire area, and that intense pressure caused the Taurus team's people to continuously retreat. Chu Tian narrowed his eyes. The Azure Phoenix of Wind? It really is a good source spirit. Blue Wan. A legendary creature. She has a source spirit close to the god level. The Taurus team never would have thought that they would meet such a terrifying opponent in the first round. The 6 of them were only at the first awakened soul layer and their source spirits were only at the mid to low level. Not to mention Feng Kaidai was already at the peak second awakened soul layer. Even if she was at the first awakened soul layer like them, with the increase in strength from the Blue Wan source spirit, she would be able to fight against the 6 of them. The Taurus team was not willing to lose like this. Let's go all out. Feng Katie's hands came together, sweeping wind. The blue wand suddenly turned into countless strands of pure blue spirit energy. Under Feng Katie's control, the spirit energy began to spin at a high speed, forming a terrifying spirit energy storm. In the end, it turned into a huge green tornado and swept towards the 6 people. This is bad. Run. How could these people run faster than the wind? The tornado rushed over with overwhelming speed and power. Before the 6 of them could resist, they were swallowed by the tornado on the spot. They were lifted high into the air and completely lost their ability to resist. In the end, they were thrown out of the arena. Feng Kaidai had a sense of propriety. Although she had defeated the 6 of them, she did not harm them at all. We're convinced. Young Miss Feng's strength is truly strong. The 6 of them were convinced of their loss. Although Feng Kaidai was a peak second awakened soul layer cultivator, with the power of the Blue Wand source spirit, she could even fight a triple awakened soul cultivator. This Central State City waste young miss, when did she become this strong? The surrounding spectators all stared with wide eyes. Cultivation base, cultivation technique, and source spirit, they were all first class. Was this still Feng Kaidai? It took the audience a long time to recover before they burst into applause and cheers. Good. Good fight. Feng Kaidai stood on the stage and looked around at the people cheering for her. The excitement and emotion in her heart could not be described with words. No one could understand the pressure Feng Kaidai was under. She was the only daughter of Shen Fengho and Feng Yuntian. In order to raise Feng Kaidai, the Feng family had spent a lot of resources. However, Feng Kaidai had an innately blocked meridian and could not cultivate at all. Everything the Feng family did, not only did they not gain anything, they became the laughing stock of Central State City. Feng Kaidai had grown up in this kind of ridicule. The reason she could hold her head high today was all because of the unknown youth behind her. It could be said that Chu Tian had given her a new lease on life. Feng Qingyun's eyes were filled with darkness. I never thought that this vase would have a day where she could turn things around. The second match began. On this side, it was still Feng Kaidai who came out and easily won without any suspense. Feng Kaidai had been cultivating all kinds of unique cultivation techniques of Shen Fengho since she was young. From defense to offense, from movement to strange techniques, there was nothing she didn't learn. When she was in the body refinement realm, these cultivation techniques could not be used at all. However, once she entered the awakened soul realm, the cultivation techniques she had cultivated for many years would naturally reach the realm of mastery. Because of this, Feng Katie's overall strength was very strong. Now that she had awakened the powerful Blue Wand source spirit and obtained a strong amplification effect, even if she fought against someone with a triple awakened soul, she would still be able to fight. With Chu Tian's current strength, he did not have a 100% chance of winning against an opponent with a triple awakened soul. So with Feng Katie's current strength, she definitely had the qualifications to participate in the final battle of the Great Games. This was a seeded player with a lot of potential. Round after round. Feng Katie's various cultivation techniques appeared one after another, constantly shocking everyone present. As for the other members of Feng Katie's team, they did not even have a chance to make a move. Finally, the selections reached the final round. Now, Among the remaining 4 groups, there would only be one more victory before the preliminaries would end. The 2 groups that won would be the ones to enter the official competition. Team Feng Kaidai against Team Qi Ba. The crowd went into an uproar. Feng Katie's strength had already been displayed without a doubt. But Qi Ba's team was not a normal group. Not only were they all experts at the second awakened soul layer, they were all experts with profound cultivation techniques and battle experience. This was truly a strong battle that everyone was looking forward to. But Qi Ba's team had ugly expressions on their faces. This was because even if the 6 of them worked together, they did not have a high chance of winning against Feng Kaidai. Not to mention that Feng Katie's team had Lin Mu and Fang Han, these 2 rising stars of the mercenary world. So their chances of winning this competition were very slim. Qi Ba said with a serious expression, "There is only one way for us to win. If they send out a single person again. If the 6 of us can defeat Feng Kaidai, then the others won't be a threat at all. That's right. Let's do it like this." From the momentum that Feng Kaidai had accumulated, she would most likely choose to fight alone. If the 6 of them worked together to deal with her, then they would have a chance of winning. When the 6 of them had thought of a strategy. "You've worked hard." Chu Tian pulled out the netherworld sword with a schwa sound. He walked past Feng Kaidai and walked to the center of the stage. "This time it's my turn to exercise my muscles." Feng Qingyun gave a cold snort and said with a face filled with ridicule, "You're just a trivial first body refinement layer waste, yet you want to fight 6 second awakened soul layer cultivators. Are you prepared to disgrace yourself?" Feng Katie's eyes flashed with a trace of worry. "Lu Ren, I know you're not weak. But they're all second awakened soul layer cultivators. I don't have any confidence in winning." "You." Feng Kaidai knew that this Lu Ren was very strong. In the 10,000 corpse ancient tomb, how many fierce characters had fallen to his hands? But, that was in the ancient tomb and he was affected by the restriction. Chu Tian was only a 9th body refinement layer cultivator at that time. How long had it been since then? Chu Tian had stepped into the awakened soul realm, but he should have just broken through. Without any restriction, he wanted to challenge 6 experienced second awakened soul layer cultivators. It wasn't that Feng Kaidai didn't believe in his strength, but it was hard to imagine. Feng Qingyun coldly said, "I don't think you guys can do it, let me do it." Chu Tian ignored Feng Qingyun and said to Feng Kaidai, "Relax. It's fine." After saying this, he ignored Feng Qingyun's gloomy face and walked forward. Qi Ba's expression turned sluggish. "Why is it a waste like you?" Another person said with a smile, "This brat was rejected by our team, but he really has some dog shit luck. He held on to young Miss Feng Katie's thigh and actually made it to the last round. I advise you not to ask for trouble. Quickly scram. Let young Miss Feng personally come." Another member of Qi Ba's team said, "Could it be that the mighty young Miss Feng is suddenly afraid, so she sent this waste to help you test the waters?" Chu Tian shook his head and said, 1/ per person. Qi Ba was stunned. "What did you say?" Chu Tian did not explain and slowly raised his sword. On the surface of the blade, there was a blue and white flame that ignited. "There's something fishy about this brat. Go. Take care of him." Qi Ba's group of 6 prepared to make a move. Hong. The netherworld sword released a giant flame that instantly swallowed Chu Tian's body. When the flames around him dissipated, Chu Tian had already disappeared. Where did he go? Why did he disappear? The 6 of them did not even have time to be shocked. Schwa. A burning sword glow slashed down with an unstoppable force. Ah! The weapon and armor of the person in front shattered and his protective spirit energy was as weak as paper. The netherworld ghost flame covered his body and he cried out in fear. He quickly rolled on the ground trying to extinguish the flame. The netherworld flame was not a normal flame, how could it be easily extinguished? The more he struggled, the stronger the flame became. He only saw the sword glow. He could not see the person. This was the style of an assassination cultivation technique. Qi Ba never would have thought that this ordinary-looking youth would actually have this kind of cultivation technique. Assassination cultivation techniques were strange and unpredictable, so it was very hard to practice them. Normally speaking, assassination cultivation techniques were very strong, but they could not last long. However, what made Qi Ba's blood run cold was that after this youth sent out a slash, he did not reveal himself. Shua! Not even a second had passed. A burning sword glow appeared at the back of the team and another member was hit. His weapon and armor shattered at the same time and the netherworld flame ignited his protective spirit energy, instantly turning him into half a man on fire. Too fast. He did not even have time to think. Shwa, 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 shwa. He could only hear several sharp sounds breaking through the air. Qi Ba could not even lock onto the youth's shadow. When the strong sword glows slashed down, the weapons in his hands were cut in half and his armor was cut to pieces. Clearly, the youth was being merciful. If he really wanted to kill them, they would have died 10 times over. When the 6 of them were easily defeated, Chu Tian raised his long sword and calmly walked out. Do you still want to fight? We admit defeat. They never would have dreamed of this. This youth had such a strong strength. They were truly blind at that time. If they had recruited this kind of person into their team, even if they met Feng Katie's team, they would still have a large chance of winning. Regret. Helplessness. Shame. Qi Ba and the others wished they could find a hole to hide in. They felt a trace of respect for this seemingly ordinary youth. The 6 of them had humiliated him, but this youth did not take the chance to kill them. This kind of breadth of mind was not something normal people had. Thank you for being merciful. We are sincerely convinced. We apologize for our stupid actions. Qi Ba and the others gave a sigh and left the stage. How could they know that Chu Tian was disdainful of arguing with them? That would be too degrading. The battle had ended in less than 10 seconds and the audience could not understand what had happened. Feng Kai-dai was secretly shocked in her heart. When Chu Tian was in the 9th body refinement layer, he could use his strong defense and source spirit to challenge a first awakened soul layer cultivator, but now his strength was even stronger than before. He had not used his full strength in this battle. Chu Tian's sword source spirit that was not inferior to a god-level sword spirit had not been used and he had not used his strong defensive cultivation technique. So in this battle, he had not even used 50% of his strength. This unpredictable sword art, adding on the incomparably tyrannical defensive power, as well as the amplification from his source spirit, most third awakened soul layer cultivators would not be his opponent. He really was worthy of being him, he did not disappoint them. When Feng Qingyun saw the power Chu Tian had revealed, his brows slightly jumped up, but he quickly calmed down. So what if you have 2 skills? You won't be able to enter the finals with this kind of strength. Do you think that any random cat or dog can enter the central state trial? He seemed to purposely speak loudly so that Chu Tian, who had just returned, could hear him. Chu Tian knit his brows. What grudges this fellow had with Feng Kai-dai, Chu Tian did not care. This was their family's matter, but no matter how deep their grudges were, there was still a perpetrator for every debt. What kind of skill was it to take it out on others? Chu Tian was giving Feng Kai-dai face, so he did not lower himself to his level. This repeated provocation, he was not putting father in his eyes at all. Chapter 151. Chu Tian still had a calm appearance on the surface, but a cold glow flashed in the depths of his eyes. Your Excellency is very confident in your own strength. I don't dare, but it's more than enough to take care of you. Feng Qingyun did not give him any face at all as he continued to provoke him. What, you're not convinced? I'll give you a chance to challenge me, how about I let you have 10 moves first? He was provoking him to this degree. Did Chu Tian still want to pretend to be a grandson? Feng Kai-dai saw that the situation was not right and quickly stood in between the 2 of them. Qingyun. That's enough. If you have any dissatisfaction, come at me. Why do you keep making things hard for my friend? How could I dare? You have a Shin Feng Ho as your father. Feng Qingyun said in a strange voice and then looked over at Chu Tian, a piece of trash that relies on a woman to protect him. It's fine if I don't make a move. After saying this, he arrogantly walked past Chu Tian. Feng Kaidai had an apologetic expression as she said to Chu Tian, Brother Lu, please don't mind him. Qingyun has been sent away by the family to cultivate for several years and has only recently returned to the central state main city. It's said that he had quite a bit of harvest, so it's best if you don't directly clash with him. Chu Tian did not even give Chu Xinghe any face. What did this brat count for? But Chu Tian was very curious as he said, why is your cousin's relationship not good at all? Feng Kaidai revealed a helpless expression, I do feel guilty towards him. Oh. Chu Tian was a little interested, what's going on? You know that I had an innately terminated meridian, so there was no value in raising me. It's only because of my father that the family still threw the best resources on me, wasting countless precious resources for nothing. However, they didn't achieve the desired results. If it wasn't for me, these resources would have been used on Qingyun. With his talent, he would not be any worse than the 4 young masters. Because of these things, he's holding a grudge against you. I think it's more than that. Chu Tian gave a laugh. You no longer have an innately terminated meridian, so your talent might not lose to his. The spiritual energy in your body has allowed your growth to soar. He wasn't giving you a good look because he was jealous and fearful. This kind of person is too narrow-minded and won't achieve much. You don't have to feel guilty, it's not your fault. Feng Kaidai blushed. This is all thanks to your care. Father wishes to meet you in private. Marquis Ye's elegance has already been seen. If there is a chance, I will see it again. Who was Feng Katie's father? The answer was already on the verge of being revealed. Feng Kaidai was the daughter of Shin Feng Ho and Feng Yintian. Chu Tian had always wondered why Shin Feng Ho would help him out. At that time, even if Chu Tian had used Yi Tianlang to force Yi Wudao to retreat, South Sky City would not have been at peace. Feng Yuntian suddenly appeared to resolve this matter, and even forbade the Ye family from setting foot in Tiannan City. This allowed Chu Tian to have a period of peace. This fellow was quite a character, he had to meet him when he had the chance. This fellow Feng Qingyun, if he knew that Feng Kaidai was cured by him, he would hate him even more. He would want to skin Chu Tian alive. But then again, Feng Qingyun was not weak at all. At the very least, he was not weaker than Feng Kaidai. Even after seeing the netherworld flickering flames' unfathomable speed and might, Feng Qingyun was still arrogant enough to give Chu Tian 10 moves. This meant that he was not simple at all. Even if Chu Tian was hiding his strength, he did not dare say that he could win against him. But he was still in the Void Soul realm, so how strong could he be? After the competition ended, 2 groups were chosen. One of the groups was naturally Chu Tian's group. The other group's strength was not bad. They were rogue cultivators in name, but they were actually retainers of large families or young geniuses of large families. Because they were young and talented, they were highly regarded by the large families and were not cultivating in Central State Academy. Didn't they say they would choose people that were not from Central State Academy? Whether it was their age or status, they all met the requirements. The competition would begin tomorrow. Chu Tian needed to make some preparations. After Chu Tian returned, he immediately went into closed-door cultivation. At this moment, in the center of the closed-door cultivation room, there was a giant stone. It was as black as ink and was made of volcanic glass. There was a jumping green flame sealed within it. Elemental Source Stone. Yunyao had followed Chu Tian's request and secretly bought it here. When it came to the elemental source, the netherworld sword couldn't help letting out a faint cry. The weapon spirit could feel the energy in the elemental source, it was very thirsty for power. Don't be anxious. I'll give it to you right now. A dark blue sword tip stabbed into the elemental source stone and the sharp sword tip stabbed into the center of the dark flame. In an instant, the giant elemental source stone began to violently tremble. On the smooth ice crystal blade, a large amount of dense runes appeared like a spider web. The netherworld flame was not controlled by Chu Tian and it automatically spat out, turning the blade into a burning flame. Pure. Thick. An energy flowed into the netherworld sword like a river, constantly nourishing the sword and allowing the netherworld flame to grow. If this continued, the netherworld flame's strength would increase by several times. What Chu Tian did not expect was that a pure spiritual energy entered his body through the sword hilt and spread through his meridians. This elemental source stone could have been left behind by a high-level elemental being, so the energy inside was very strong. When the dark and flame essences were absorbed by the netherworld sword, a large amount of spiritual energy was left behind. This thing was useless to the sword, so it was sent to Chu Tian's body. The person raised the sword raised the person, and the person raised the sword. Chu Tian cultivated the sword art and increased the netherworld sword's strength. When the netherworld sword became stronger, it would also feed back to Chu Tian, increasing his strength in all aspects. Even Chu Tian did not expect this. Because the spiritual energy inside the elemental source stone was in a solidified state, it was impossible to directly extract. However, the netherworld sword had the ability to extract it. This is great. Chu Tian would not let go of such a good chance. He immediately sat down and held the sword with both hands. He opened his meridians and absorbed the spiritual energy into his body, refining it. The amount of spiritual energy was very large. It had completely surpassed Chu Tian's imagination. Chu Tian could feel the spirit energy in his body becoming larger and larger, finally reaching a critical point. He was just a step away. This kind of once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, how could Chu Tian let it go? Do it in one go. Break through his meridian. Countless strands of new spirit energy gathered in his dantian. Chu Tian's body released a strong glow and an invisible wave of spirit energy was released. The entire room began to tremble and the walls began to crack. What's going on? Such a strong aura. Yunyao had been standing guard outside the entire time. When she felt the aura coming from the room, she immediately understood that Chu Tian was about to make a breakthrough. When Yunyao and Chu Tian had first met, he was just a normal 9th body refinement layer cultivator. He had already reached the 2nd awakened soul layer in such a short period of time. This kind of speed was too fast. What made Yunyao's heart tremble was that when Chu Tian broke through to the 2nd awakened soul layer, the pressure and aura was too strong. It was not something a void soul cultivator should have. His battle strength had increased along with his cultivation. Now in the void soul realm, it would be hard to find an opponent. After around half an hour, the room gradually calmed down. Chu Tian let out a long sigh and pulled out the sword from the dawn stone. The originally jade-like dawn stone had now become like a piece of broken stone, and the origin fire within it had also been completely extinguished. The netherworld sword released an even colder aura. This sword had been sealed in the ancient tomb for countless years and the weapon's spirit had almost dried up. When Chu Tian used the new netherworld flame to form a new weapon spirit, it was still very weak and could not display the true power of a soul-contracting weapon. This time, the weapon spirit had been fully nourished. Although it was still far from its peak, compared to before, the sword's power had increased by quite a bit. The most important thing was Chu Tian's netherworld flame sword had been greatly improved. From the small success realm, it had reached the mastery realm. In terms of power, it could not be compared to before. Yunyao looked at him coming out, there aren't many people that can be your match in the great games. You have a chance of being the champion. Being the champion isn't enough. Chu Tian revealed a mysterious smile and swaggered out. Wasn't this brat's tone a bit too big? His tone was like the championship was already in his grasp. Although he was already in the 2nd awakened soul layer, it was not guaranteed he would be the champion. There were many strong opponents in the Great Games. The next morning, the Central State Great Games had officially begun. The Great Games had attracted the attention of the large families in Central State, and the commoners were treating it as a grand event. The Great Games had not even begun, but the large gambling houses had already opened and the entire city was guessing who would be the champion. Chu Wufeng. Looking at the data from the large gambling houses, this person had the highest chance of winning. Chu Wufeng was Chu Xinghe's little brother and was only 5 years younger than Chu Xinghe. Other than Chu Xinghe, he was recognized by the Chu family as the most talented member of the Chu family's third generation. Chu Wufeng had just turned 21 years old and had occupied the Central State Academy Azure Dragon Courtyard for over 2 years. Of the 4 courtyards of Central State Academy, the Azure Dragon Courtyard was the strongest. Chu Wufeng could be considered the number 1 person in Central State Academy. Some people said that Chu Wufeng's greatest regret was being born in the same generation as Chu Xinghe. This was a reasonable statement. The Chu family did not have a person like Chu Xinghe, so all the resources would be given to Chu Wufeng. He could completely carry the banner of the Chu family's third generation and be on the same level as the other 4 young masters. The heavens truly blessed the Chu family. It was fine if there was a dazzling and brilliant Chu Xinghe. Now there was a super genius Chu Wufeng. It really made the other 3 families envious. Of course, everyone deliberately ignored a single person. That miraculous youth in the distant South Sky City, he was also surnamed Chu. Perhaps it was because there were too many geniuses in this generation of the Chu family, it did not matter if there was one more or one less. Up until now, the Chu family had treated him as an abandoned child. Not only did they not have any thoughts of taking him back into the family, they even wanted to kill him. This caused Chu Tian and the Chu family to have a falling out, and now they were like fire and water. Other than Chu Wufeng, Yi Hen and Luo Jinshi, these 2 were also popular candidates for the championship. Yi Hen and Luo Jinshi were not much worse than Chu Wufeng. One was the White Tiger champion and the other was the Black Tortoise champion. They were Chu Wufeng's greatest competitors in Central State Academy. The 3 of them often fought and each had their own victories and defeats. Although Chu Wufeng was slightly stronger, he did not have complete confidence in winning. If there were no accidents, the champion would be one of the 3. However, this year's competition was not normal, because there were too many uncertain factors. It was said that the Central State Academy's Vermilion Bird Courtyard, which had been silent for many years, had a super genius that had just entered the academy for a month. This person had a source spirit, which was rare in Central State City. Just based on the strength of his source spirit, he was even stronger than the 4 young masters and could be considered to be in the god level. Other than that, the Yun family's young master that had been underestimated had suddenly erupted on the eve of the competition. As for how strong he was, it was hard to predict. Other than the Central State Academy, there were also 2 groups from outside the academy participating. One of the groups had Shenfengho's daughter Feng Kaidai shining. She was definitely a dark horse level character that many people were looking forward to. There were experts like clouds in this competition. For the precious trial qualification, everyone would go all out and it was hard to predict the final result. Chapter 152. The Central State League venue was filled with a sea of people. It was filled with people, showing just how prosperous Central State City was. The 6 platforms were built with waist-thick hardwood, and they were separated by more than 100 feet from each other. They were arranged somewhat like a 6-pointed star formation, with each of the 6 corners being an arena, and the largest arena in the center. This was obviously the arena used for the final battle. There was a sea of people all around. There were several VIP areas for the various large families, but they were still empty. There was not a single family's training ground. There was a wooden sign in front of the Central State League and it had the rules of the competition written in gold characters the size of a fist, as well as the positions of the participants. Chu Tian's group of 6 were on the 1st to 6th stage. Unless they could last until the final battle, they would not meet each other in the same group. Feng Qingyun looked at the rules on the wooden sign and gave a snort as he said, I just hope your luck is good and you can last until the finals. Chu Tian did not care at all, my luck has always been good. The crowd around them began to boil. The Chu family is here. That's the Chu family's head Chu Xinghe and the heavenly sword young master Chu Xinghe. The Chu family's lineup was not big, but it was very beautiful. They were all dressed like Chu family swordsmen and almost all of them were elders. Any one of them was a famous person in Central State City. Approximately 50 or so Chu clan elders, together with 100 or so Chu clan attendants, were currently escorting two gorgeous palanquins towards the high VIP viewing platform. Luo family, Ye family, and Yun family. The three great families are also here. Luo family's Luo Yancheng, Dragon Tiger Young Master Luo Xianglong, Ye family's Yi Wudao, Prince Tianlang Yi Tianlang, Yun family's Patriarch Yun Tianhe, and Purple Lightning Young Master Yun Yao. It really is worthy of being the Central State City's grand meeting. The legendary figures of Central State City are all here at once. The leaders of the four great families and the successors of the four great families were all here. Central State Great General Xiong Wuji has arrived. A dark-skinned general led hundreds of elite guards into the field. Everyone looked at them with awe. The Xiong clan was the #1 general clan in Central Continent. Its status was only below the Feng clan and the four great clans. Chu Tian's eyes lit up. It was actually him. This was the general that Chu Tian had met once in the Black Wind stronghold. Chu Tian had a good impression of him. Although he already knew that this person's position was not low, he had never imagined that he would be the #1 person in the Central Plains military. Although his clan's influence was slightly inferior to the four great clans, in terms of individual strength, this General Xiong Wuji was probably not much inferior to the few patriarchs. The city lord has arrived. The president has arrived. At this moment, a series of drums sounded and a magnificent guard of honor entered the scene. A man wearing a blue city lord robe flew into the air and landed on the referee's seat. Beside the city lord was a middle-aged man dressed in Confucian robes. The two of them looked somewhat similar, so they were most likely brothers. Central State City Lord Feng Yunlong. Central State Academy's Principal Feng Yunhu. The two pillars of the Central State City Feng family. One was in charge of the city lord position and the other was in charge of the Central State Academy. At this moment, the military, political, four great clans, and other noble families had all arrived. The people at the top of the Central State Pyramid had all gathered here. It could be seen just how important this gathering was to Central State City. This competition was related to the Central State Trial spots. The Central State Trial was something that the youths of Central State dreamed of participating in. The Central State Tower Trial contained a large amount of wealth and treasures, including some precious ancient cultivator inheritances. Every time the trial opened, only 10 people were allowed to enter. The four great clans were the elders of Central State City and each family only had one spot. 6 spots would be decided in the Central State League and even the Feng family did not have an extra spot. After all, although the Feng family had a high status, they did not have many people and they had only been stationed in Central State City for several years. Dong, dong, dong. The golden bell was equally famous. The audience became silent. Everyone knew in their hearts that this grand gathering was about to begin. At this time, wild winds began to blow in the sky and a vast aura descended. A long laugh came from the clouds and echoed throughout the Central State League. This year's gathering is very lively, this marquis will also join in on the fun. When everyone heard this voice, they were all shocked. The citizens all knelt down on both knees. The normal generals, magistrates, nobles, and the small and medium-sized family heads all knelt down. The 4 great family heads and 4 young masters also had to stand up to show their respect. Greetings to Shen Feng Ho. Greetings to Shen Feng Ho. Shen Feng Ho and Feng Yuntian were wearing simple blue robes. They stepped through the air, moving 100 meters in an instant. They landed on the referee's seat and stood in front of their two little brothers. Everyone, no need for formalities. This marquis is only a spectator, so how the gathering is going to be carried out will be how it is. You don't need to be affected by me. Whether it was the citizens or the nobles, they all revealed looks of excitement. Shen Fengho did not have any position, but he was the protector of Central State and one of the 8 marquises of the southern summer country. Just the name Shen Fengho. His position was even higher than the city lords. The Feng family was a large family in Imperial City and had made great contributions in the war against the spirit beasts. When Feng Yuntian's family went to the battlefield to fight, only a few people came back alive. Feng Yuntian's military exploits were outstanding and he was given the title of Shen Fengho. 12 years ago, he brought the rest of his family to Central State. In those fierce battles, the Feng family's true descendants had all died. Feng Yunhu and Feng Yunlong were Feng Yuntian's little brothers, but strictly speaking, they were from the other side. However, Feng Yuntian did not care about power. Not only did he support the two of them, he even wanted to give up the family head position and let their branch be the main branch. When Feng Yuntian's only daughter was found to have an innately terminated meridian, the Feng family knew it would be a waste, but they still threw in all kinds of treasures. This was the reason. It was because Feng Yuntian was the family head. He had contributed so much to the family, but he had given up all his power. How could the Feng family not treat his descendant well? At least the Feng family needed this banner. The Feng family controlled the entire Central State, but they did not have many people. However, with Shen Fengho's strength as the strongest in Central State, there were no known experts that could compare to him. Even in the entire southern summer country, there were only a few old monsters from the 3 great families that could suppress Shen Fengho. So it didn't matter if there were few people. Shen Fengho's reputation was enough to suppress everything. Greetings to elder brother. Please have a seat. Central State City Lord Feng Yunlong did not dare put on any airs in front of Shen Fengho. Feng Yuntian was not polite as he sat in the highest seat. Have we started? We'll start now. Feng Yunhu was the Central State Academy's principal, so he naturally had the responsibility of being the main referee. Let the competition begin. The golden bell was once again announced. The over 100 participants came to their respective arenas. Third arena, first round. Lu Ren against Chu Ming. Chu Tian couldn't help being stunned for a few seconds. It couldn't be, right? What a coincidence. Not only was it his turn in the first round. His opponent was actually someone surnamed Chu. Chu Tian came out. Several large characters looked over. Yun Tian had directly stood up. It's that brat. Chu Xinghe opened his eyes and a pair of sword-like eyes swept over him. It's him. Feng Yuntian of course also noticed Chu Tian. He looked over Chu Tian a few times. This appearance-changing technique is not bad, even I can't see through it. It's no wonder he could fool so many people. Chu Ming was a retainer of the Chu family. The Chu family was a bit similar to the Yun family. If the Yun family was a family of scholars, then the Chu family was a family of martial artists. The Yun family wantonly recruited scholars from Central State and the Chu family wantonly recruited talented people. The Chu family was stronger than the Yun family, so the Chu family could provide a better treatment. Of course, there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. The Chu family's treatment was better, but their conditions were also very harsh. From the consecrator to the retainer, as long as they entered the Chu family, they could only change their surname to Chu. Chu Tunguen was like this, Chu Batian was like this. The young Chu Ming was also like this. Chu Ming was a very famous young genius, but because he had caught the eye of the Chu family, he was bought out by the Chu family at a high price. He could only serve the Chu family for 10 years and the Chu family had given him a top-grade cultivation technique to train him. He had now become a member of the Chu family. Chu Ming did not enter the Central State Academy. Of the 2 groups that were selected from the selections, Chu Ming was in the other group. The Chu family members revealed a satisfied look when they saw this. An elder said, Chu Ming's talent is rare even in the Chu family. That's right. Another elder nodded, he is only 20 years old and has already reached the second awakened soul layer, surpassing the normal elders and high-level deacons of the Chu family. The most terrifying thing is that his swordsmanship has reached perfection. There aren't many experts at the same level that can block Chu Ming's sword, even you and I would find it hard to block. Nonsense, our Chu family's swordsmanship is famous throughout the southern summer country, how many people can block it? This nameless rogue cultivator will lose for sure. The Chu family members were filled with confidence. Only Chu Xinghe slightly knit his brows, looking very serious. At this time, Chu Ming pulled out a curved sword and coldly stared at Chu Tian, admit your loss. I am a member of the Chu family, a trivial rogue cultivator going against the Chu family can only lead to death. Chu Tian did not even pull out his sword as he crossed his arms, you dare say such childish words. Not to mention you are a slave of the Chu family, so what if you are a member of the Chu family? Stop wasting time and make your move. A slave of the Chu family? These words deeply hurt Chu Ming. You're seeking death. I'll help you out. Chu Ming held the curved sword like he was skateboarding. His body did not move as he instantly charged in front of Chu Tian. The curved sword released a cold glow as it stabbed at his chest. Too fast. Chu Ming's body did not move, but it was like he teleported. A cold glow tore through the air with an extremely strong momentum. Chu Tian did not even blink as he watched the sword stab at him. Everyone cried out in surprise, why isn't he dodging? When the sword glow was about to stab him, Chu Ming disappeared in a blur. Everyone was suddenly enlightened. Chu Ming cultivated an assassination cultivation technique. This overbearing attack was actually just an illusion, but it was very confusing, making it hard for people to distinguish the real from the fake. If Chu Tian made any movements to block or dodge, he would reveal a flaw that Chu Ming could grasp. The moment the afterimage disappeared, Chu Tian felt a cold light coming at the back of his neck. Hyperfocus. Chu Tian slightly swayed his body. The cold sword edge brushed past his skin, dodging by a hair's breadth. Chu Ming's expression changed. He suddenly stomped his feet. Once again, he disappeared in a blur. A sneer of ridicule hung on Chu Tian's face. Thick origin power condensed on his right hand, and two of his fingers gradually turned golden. Diamond vein cutting finger. He stabbed at the air in front of him. Dang! Two golden fingers caught a blade that was stabbing at him. Pa! Chu Tian suddenly exerted force. The blade broke on the spot. The violent force lost control and immediately formed a strong explosion. A transparent figure was forced out of the air and staggered back a few steps. He was seen through. This was the illusory body sword art taught by the Chu family. How could it be seen through? Chu Ming stared at the broken sword in his hand. His face was filled with anger and coldness. How is this possible? I am a genius cultivated by the Chu family. I can't do anything to a rogue cultivator. I don't believe that I can't kill you. Chu Ming once again activated his spirit energy and was about to attack again. However, he suddenly felt a piercing pain in his chest. When he looked down, he saw a snow-white broken sword had pierced into his chest. Blood gushed out uncontrollably. No, no. Chu Ming clutched his chest in horror. He took a few steps forward and finally fell to the ground. This is the Chu family sword art. Chu Tian walked to Chu Ming's limp body and kicked him off the stage like a ball. What a mess. What a shocking move. It undoubtedly caused a huge uproar. The Chu family's sword art was a mess. This was like a slap on the face of those who were complacent. Moreover, the slap was so loud. The strongest swordsman family in Zhongzhou was almost the strongest swordsman family in southern Xia. He actually said that the Chu family's sword art was a mess. Wasn't this clearly smashing the reputation of the Chu family? Chu Shanhe's eyes were as cold as ice. This kid must die. Chapter 153. Chu Tian left the stage. Xiang Hu was dejected as he walked over with a depressed look on his face. He had been eliminated in the first round. This fellow was a true rogue cultivator. He had been lucky enough to be accepted as an honorary disciple by Feng Yuntian, but he was only an honorary disciple in name. With Shen Fengho's personality, how could he be in the mood to personally teach him? He would just give him a bunch of elixirs and a few cultivation techniques, letting him practice it himself. Normally he would do odd jobs in the valley, being no different from a servant. The participants were all at the second or triple awakened soul layer. Xiang Hu was brought in by Feng Kaidai to make up the numbers, so it was not strange for him to be eliminated in the first round. Chu Tian wanted to say a few words of comfort to Xiang Hu, but before he could say anything, he suddenly heard a piece of news. That mercenary named Lin Mu seems to be in trouble. He's going against Luo Jinshi in the first round. Chu Tian knit his brows. Was this fellow really that unlucky? At this moment, Lin Mu was standing on the second stage. His opponent was a large man with a strong body. Although he was only in his 20s, he had a thick beard that made him look like he was in his 30s. The large man did not carry any weapons and was wearing ordinary clothes. His two thick arms were exposed and there were red tattoos on them. He looked like a wild warrior from a tribe. The Black Tortoise lists first-ranked Luo Jinshi. Below the Central State Luo family's Dragon Tiger young master Luo Xianglong, he was the most talented genius. Luo Qianshan's lion-like eyes stared at the mercenary Lin Mu in front of him. His eyes revealed a look of deep disdain. A dirty mercenary, you are not worthy of fighting me. I advise you to honestly do your job. The Central State trial is not something trash can enter. Scram. Otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. Lin Mu's cultivation was at the peak second awakened soul layer. Luo Jinshi had already reached the triple awakened soul realm. Luo Jinshi was one of the Luo family's most important heirs, so the family must have given him a lot of resources. This kind of person could not be ordinary, even if they were at the same cultivation level, ordinary cultivators would not be his opponent. Lin Mu said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing, the Ye family are also mercenaries. If you belittle mercenaries like this, aren't you pointing at the mulberry and scolding the locust? As soon as he said that, the faces of the Ye family members did not look too good either. You. Luo Jinshi's expression changed. Your mouth is quite sharp, but I hate people like you the most. Today, I'll cripple your mouth so you can never speak again. Lin Mu revealed a grave expression. I'd like to experience the Luo clan's ultimate technique. You're seeking death. As you wish. Luo Jinshi's eyes widened as he roared. His spirit energy blossomed and turned into a giant golden lion. This giant lion's body was extremely large and its entire body looked like it was forged from gold. It gave off a powerful and imposing aura that could shock anyone. Luo Jinshi. He lived up to his name. The source spirit was a golden lion. This was a very high-level demon beast. It could hunt down mammoths and tear apart dragons. It had boundless might and was very strong. With the support of the golden lion source spirit, Luo Jinshi's strength and speed increased by several times. Combined with the Luo family's close combat cultivation technique, he could be called a human grinder. So strong. Truly worthy of being the Black Tortoise first rank. Compared to the Dragon Tiger young master, this person was only slightly inferior. Lin Mu knew how strong his opponent was, but this young mercenary was full of vigor. No matter how strong Luo Jinshi was, he was not someone that the four young masters could not fight. Since he was standing on the stage, how could he not fight? Lin Mu raised his arms high up and a willow tree began to wildly grow, instantly growing to several meters tall. A green jade light covered the surroundings and several thousand willow branches fluttered in the wind, just like the wild hair of a demon god. Oh! A plant-type source spirit. The four great figures were all surprised. This kind of rare source spirit could be strong or weak, they didn't know how strong this mercenary was. Die! Luo Jinshi charged forward like a rampaging rhinoceros. Would rush thrust. Lin Mu slapped the ground with his palm. Luo Jinshi felt spirit energy coming from the ground and a giant tree being pulled from the ground. He immediately dodged to the left and right like lightning. With his fast movement speed and perception, Luo Jinshi easily dodged the attack from the ground. At this moment, lock! Lin Mu's hands came together and the countless willow branches were like the arms of a demon. They shot out like lightning and wrapped around Luo Jinshi's neck. Then they wrapped around his limbs, neck, waist, and other parts, keeping him in the air. Everyone was surprised. Lin Mu was using his source spirit to attack. The Void Soul Realm source spirit was very weak and could only be used to support attacks. Lin Mu's source spirit was different, it could actually be used to attack. The Luo family's cultivation technique focused on close combat. In a normal situation, if one was thrown into the air, they would lose the ability to fight. Lin Mu loudly roared. A black aura was released and his skin turned black. Everyone could see with a single glance that this was a very strong demonic art. Lin Mu shot forward. Several sharp willow branches followed him and attacked Luo Jinshi in the air at the same time. Peng, peng, peng. Those willow branches that were as sharp as spears were like rain that stabbed at Luo Jinshi's body. After experiencing a wild storm of attacks, Lin Mu's strength reached its peak. His right fist turned as black as ink as he punched at Luo Jinshi. Luo Jinshi's protective spirit energy had already been weakened. If it hit Luo Jinshi, this fist would be enough to heavily injure him. You only have this little bit of skill. Luo Jinshi's golden lion source spirit gave an angry roar and a wave of spirit energy spread out, shattering the willow branches around him. Since you've seen the Luo family's cultivation technique, I'll let you see the might of my Luo family's lion-tiger duo. His right hand formed a claw that created a fierce claw wind. The claw wind gathered into the shape of a lion's head that bit through the willow tree. At the same time, it tore apart Lin Mu's demonic art and left a large wound on Lin Mu's body, as if he had been bitten by a lion. Die! Luo Jinshi sent out another punch. The spirit energy turned into a giant tiger that leapt out. Just like a tiger leaping over a mountain, it fell down on Lin Mu's body. It directly pressed Lin Mu into the ground, firmly pressing him into the ground. It dragged him from the center of the stage to the edge of the stage, leaving behind a deep dent. During this process, Lin Mu's bones began to crack, breaking at least 10 bones. The giant tiger formed from spirit energy roared and exploded. Lin Mu suffered another heavy injury. The armor on his body shattered and he flew off the stage like a kite with its string cut. Luo Jinshi did not show any mercy at all, he was completely intent on killing him. He was just a young mercenary with no background and no strength. So what if he was killed? What was the big deal? Who would have thought that after Lin Mu fell to the ground, he would take the initiative to stand up and release his willow tree source spirit again? Moreover, during this process, his legs began to change. They were like tree roots that pierced through the ground, deeply digging into the soil. A green energy began to wash over his body. Ka, 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 ka. His broken bones began to return to normal. In the blink of an eye, more than half of his heavy injuries had recovered. The source spirit willow tree quickly withered. It was clear that it had suffered heavy injuries, but it was still slowly recovering. Feng Yuntian was a little surprised seeing this young man's source spirit's greatest use is to transfer injuries. The willow tree source spirit could absorb the injuries on Lin Mu's body. This was really rare. Yun Tianhe pondered for a few seconds before saying, I'm afraid it's not just that. His body has been partially elemental, so there should be a special bloodline in his body. His ancestors should be from the elves. This young man's potential is not small. Chu Tian could also see this. Lin Mu's bloodline was a little special, he could temporarily elemental his body. This should be an ability of the ancient races. He was a descendant of an ancient race. Although his bloodline had been diluted for a long time and was very thin, it still had a good potential. Lin Mu did not have this kind of ability in the Black Wind's stronghold. It was clear that he had gradually awakened after that battle. This brat really did have a bit of potential, no wonder he had such a high cultivation base at such a young age without any background. He was someone worth roping in and training. Although Lin Mu still had battle strength, he had been knocked off the stage. According to the rules of the Great Games, he had already been eliminated. Lin Mu was clear in his heart that there was still a large gap between his current strength and Luo Jinshi's. The first round of the competition quickly ended. In Chu Tian's group, Xiang Hu and Lin Mu were eliminated and the others smoothly entered the next round. The second round began. Chu Tian met a top 5 ranked White Tiger ranking opponent who was only in the second awakened soul layer. He did not place this kind of person in his eyes at all. He did not even draw his sword and easily won. Fifth stage. Fang Han against Yi Hen. When Chu Tian heard this news, he couldn't help breaking out in cold sweat for his 2 mercenary brothers. It was fine if Lin Mu met the Black Tortoise ranking's first-ranked Luo Jinshi. Fang Han was not spared either, he had already met the White Tiger ranking's first-ranked Yi Hen. Yi Hen and Luo Jinshi were equally famous. In terms of strength, he was not inferior at all. Fang Han and Lin Mu were very similar, they both had a rare ice-attributed source spirit and cultivated a very strong demonic cultivation technique. Fang Han could even turn his body into ice for a short period of time, this was a characteristic of the ancient race's bloodline. Yi Hen's source spirit was even more extraordinary. From the start of the battle, he had summoned a transparent demon wolf source spirit, only revealing a pair of eyes. Those eyes were covered in gray ripples and when they stared at the demon wolf source spirit, everyone felt their minds blur, as if they were being hypnotized. Illusory pupil demon wolf. A very dangerous demon beast. This kind of demon beast's battle strength was not strong, but it could directly attack one's soul. It was strange and unpredictable, making it hard to defend against. Yi Hen was a rare spiritual attributed source spirit in the younger generation of Central State, which meant that he could use spiritual attacks. Invisible and formless, killing people without a trace. You couldn't directly look into his eyes. Fang Han knew how terrifying Yi Hen was. Compared to Yi Hen, he would rather fight Luo Jinshi. At least if he fought Luo Jinshi, he would be able to fight to his heart's content. But if he fought Lin Hen, his life and death would be decided in an instant. The ice giant source spirit was released. Several blurry ice mirrors surrounded him. Fang Han used the mirrors to lock onto Lin Hen's figure. Since he couldn't directly look into Lin Hen's eyes, why not use the mirrors to capture his figure? Yi Hen's battle strength was not strong, but as long as he wasn't affected by the spiritual illusion technique, he could still fight. It had to be said. Whether it was Lin Mu or Fang Han, both of them had a clear mind and were talented people in battle. However, both of them had made the same mistake. They had underestimated their opponents too much. Monster Wolf Transformation. Transform into my body. Yi Hen's demon wolf source spirit turned into a shadow that merged with Yi Hen's body. Man and wolf as one, spirit and body as one. This was the Ye family's inherited cultivation technique, Monster Wolf Transformation. This cultivation technique could only be used with a wolf source spirit. Back in South Sky City, Yi Tianlang had also used this move to merge with the wolf spirit. After Yi Hen used the Monster Wolf Transformation, his body gradually became transparent. Fang Han's ice mirrors could not find any traces of him. This made Fang Han's expression change. Several black claws came slashing down. The ice mirrors were all shattered. Yi Hen passed through the ice mirrors and a pair of eyes filled with ripples stared at Fang Han. This is bad. The moment Fang Han met the other side's eyes, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Yi Hen took this chance to punch Fang Han and the thick ice armor shattered. Feng Han had been heavily injured and had fainted after falling off the stage. Feng Han. Lin Mu quickly went over to support him. Chu Tian also came over and helped him take his pulse. His brows slightly knit as he said, "You don't need to worry about your physical injuries, but your mental injuries are not light." What happened? The moment Yi Hen looked at him, he fell into Yi Hen's illusion technique. It seems like a short moment to us, but in the illusion, it has already been over an hour. In other words, Yi Hen has been torturing Feng Han for over an hour in the illusion. If it wasn't for his firm consciousness, he would have become a madman even if he didn't die. So fierce. Yi Hen looked down at the stage and his lips curled into a mocking smile. He turned around and left. Yi Hen, Luo Jinshi. One was a spiritual attack genius. The other was a close combat genius. Not only did the two of them have a triple awakened soul strength, their talent and cultivation techniques were also top-notch. They were very strong and normal people could not resist them. Central State Academy had a Chu Wufeng. This person had not revealed his true strength yet, but it was said that he was stronger than the two of them. This match was filled with experts like clouds and no one had the confidence to win. Chapter 154. Xiang Hu, Lin Mu, and Feng Han were all eliminated. Only Chu Tian, Feng Kaidai, and Feng Qinyun were left. At this time, it was Chu Tian's turn to fight. Third stage, Yun Shao against Lu Ren. What? Yun Shao. Chu Tian was instantly speechless. Yun Shao's eyes turned white and he almost fainted from anger. Damn, even drinking water would get stuck between his teeth. Of all the people he could have met, he had to meet this young master. Yun Shao did not even think as he raised his hand. I admit defeat. The surrounding audience went into an uproar. What was he doing? Yun Shao was still one of the most popular people in the Great Games. He had just made a name for himself and when he used the 3 thunder blades, even the triple awakened soul might not be able to block it. The result was good. This fellow didn't even fight before admitting defeat. Bastard! You coward! I bet money that you could enter the ranking competition. Everyone was cursing at him. Yun Shao gave a disdainful snort. What do you idiots know? Yun Tianhe shook his head when he saw this and did not blame him. Yun Shao followed Chu Tian off the stage. Boss, I didn't hesitate to face the 1,000-finger to help you hide my strength. My body and mind have been seriously injured, so you have to compensate me for my mental damage. You still have mental damage? Chu Tian gave a pei sound. Are you afraid of being scolded with this kind of face? How could you say this? I have my dignity too, okay. Yun Shao did not even have time to speak before an eye-catching voice rang out. First stage, Feng Kaidai against Nangong Yun. Feng Kaidai against Nangong Yun. Yun Zhao's eyes lit up. Elder sister's match. We have to go see it. Boss, let's go. Feng Kaidai and Nangong Yun, the two of them were shockingly similar. They were both in the peak second awakened soul layer and were both country-destroying beauties. Moreover, they were both around 19 years old, so this match was bound to attract the attention of countless people. Feng Kaidai had been treated as trash by the people of Central State City for a long time, but not long ago, Feng Katie's blocked meridians had suddenly improved. Her cultivation had soared and she had stepped into the second awakened soul layer. His father is Shen Feng Ho Feng Yuntian. Everyone in Central State City knew that Feng Yuntian treated his daughter like a treasure. Back then, even though he knew that Feng Kaidai had terminated meridians, he still didn't hesitate to use large amounts of elixirs on her. He didn't even hesitate to harm his own cultivation to increase Feng Katie's cultivation. In terms of passing down cultivation methods, he was even more dedicated. After Feng Katie's physique was healed, she immediately awakened her blue Wan source spirit. She had been practicing all kinds of top-grade cultivation techniques for more than 10 years, so her strength had increased by leaps and bounds. In yesterday's qualifiers, she had shined brightly, sweeping away countless participants. Although she had not reached triple awakened soul, she had the ability to fight against Luo Jinshe and the other experts. Therefore, Feng Kaidai was also a contestant with great potential. People didn't know much about Nangong Yun. They only knew that she was the top ranker of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard and was the strongest new student in the history of Central State Academy. She had once stood still and blocked Yun Zhao's Thunder 3 blades. Just this strength alone was enough to make people unable to look down on her. The most eye-catching thing was Nangong Yun's source spirit was the Fire Phoenix, which was worthy of being called a god-level source spirit. In terms of source spirit strength, Nangong Yun was stronger than anyone else in Central State City. She also came from one of the 3 great families of the kingdom, the Nangong family. The cultivation technique she practiced, burning the heaven art, was one of the strongest cultivation techniques in southern Xia. Because of this, no one dared to look down on Nangong Yun. This was a fight that people were looking forward to. The two of them jumped onto the stage. Nangong Yun was wearing a red robe with shorts and a short shirt. She was wearing a bold and sexy outfit, revealing a pair of jade-like long legs. Her arms were slender and white, just like a pure white lotus root. Her chest was high up, but it couldn't compare to the young miss, but it was full and firm, with a deep gap visible. Her beautiful fiery red hair was tied into a ponytail, with a few strands of hair floating around her cheeks. Her whole body gave people the feeling of a raging flame, beautiful and filled with wildness. Feng Kaidai was wearing a luxurious palace robe, her body was tightly wrapped. The entire robe was woven from jade, making her look as noble and beautiful as a princess. Her long, pitch-black hair was like a waterfall that draped over her shoulders, almost reaching her waist. However, it was neat and tidy without a trace of disorder. Her beautiful face carried a smile that was neither cold nor hot, gentle and calm. She was a high and mighty, yet amiable and approachable princess. Too beautiful. This was definitely a visual impact. 2 peak beauties, and 2 peak experts. Feng Kaidai knew how strong Nangong Yun was, so she did not dare to be careless. Her right hand gently pressed against her waist, and a clear light shining treasure sword was slowly pulled out. The moment the sword was unsheathed, the originally calm and tranquil stage was suddenly blown up by a series of rapid gales. Famed sword, Divine Wind. Is this Shenfengho's Divine Wind sword? This is a peak-level top-quality soul weapon. It's already half a step into spirit linking. The 4 great families and the mayor's dean were all shocked. This was the sword that Shen Fengho and Feng Yuntian used when they were young. It had a great reputation in southern Xia, having killed several spirit beast chiefs. Shen Fengho had even given his own sword to his daughter. Chu Tian stared at the Divine Wind sword and his heart was secretly shocked. In terms of quality, the Netherworld sword was a soul-contracting weapon, it was a bit higher than the Divine Wind sword. However, the Netherworld sword had been sealed for too long, so it was very weak. Even after absorbing the elemental energy, it was still far from being restored to its peak, so it did not have its original might. This Divine Wind sword's might was not inferior to the current Netherworld sword. When Feng Kaidai was still in the body refinement realm, she only had a high-grade spirit weapon, the Autumn Water Sword. It wasn't that Shen Fengho did not want to give her a better weapon, but with Feng Katie's strength at that time, even if she had a better weapon, she would not be able to display its full power. Now that he had given her the top-grade Divine Wind sword, it was clear that he had high hopes for Feng Kaidai. Shen Fengho hoped that his daughter would inherit his legacy. Damn! This girl is clearly being shameless. Yun Xiao couldn't help shouting, what kind of skill is this treasure sword? If you have the guts, then fight our elder sister fairly. Stupid. Chu Tian directly knocked Yun Xiao's head, equipment is a part of strength. If you say it like this, then if I use the Netherworld sword to fight you, wouldn't that be taking advantage of you? Feng Kaidai held the shining treasure sword in her hand and respectfully cupped her fists at Nangong Yun, young Miss Nangong, please. Nangong Yun curled her lips and said with a face filled with mischief, "It's better if you go first. I'm afraid of being too heavy-handed and injuring Shin Fengho's precious daughter." Feng Kaidai had a good temper and revealed a faint smile. She was not angry at all. "Then I'll go first. Young Miss Nangong, be careful." A clear cry rang out. The 9 heavens shook. The blue wand appeared and wild winds rose. The great competition was covered in a strong pressure. The blue wand was a wind-attributed sacred beast, so Feng Katie's attribute was wind. This was clearly inherited from Shin Fengho. Because it was a bird-type source spirit, it gave Feng Kaidai the ability to fly. Her body gently jumped up and immediately soared into the sky, merging with the blue wand. The divine wind sword danced a few times. The blue sword glow continued to interweave, condensing together like a storm. The sword cry rang out, looking very beautiful and shocking. This is the wind and cloud sword song. It's Shin Fengho's unique skill. The Chu family all used swords. When they saw this strange sword art, they couldn't help holding their breaths. Even Chu Xinghe knit his brows. This sword art was clearly special. Flashy but impractical. Nangong Yun was not panicked at all. She was filled with confidence. When she saw that Feng Kaidai had finished preparing, she finally made her move. Fire red spirit energy soared into the sky. It was like a burst of flames. With a clear phoenix cry, the fire red spirit energy filled the air. Most of the stage was covered in a red glow, even the clouds were dyed red. Such terrifying spirit energy. Nangong Yun's spirit energy is at least 3 times denser than a normal person's. This is the strong amplification effect of the fire phoenix's spirit. The 4 great families all had serious expressions. Feng Yuntian also revealed an interested expression. Feng Katie's cultivation was around the same as Nangong Yun's, but in terms of spirit energy quantity and density, Feng Kaidai was inferior to Nangong Yi. After all, the blue wand could not compare to the fire phoenix. The blue wand's spirit energy amplification effect was not large. The blue wand released a blue glow, instantly dissipating over half a year. The ancient divine beast's pressure followed. Even a sacred beast like the blue wand, facing the fire phoenix, couldn't help paling. Feng Katie's blue wand source spirit was not inferior to Chu Xinghe's golden flood dragon sword. The fire phoenix source spirit was a level higher. Although a source spirit did not represent one's strength, a source spirit had a direct influence on one's strength. Since Nangong Yun had such a strong source spirit, even if she was lacking in other aspects, she still wouldn't be weak. A blue wand and a fire phoenix, each standing in the air facing each other. Feng Kaidai had taken the initiative, she had already formed a strong momentum. She also had a top-quality soul weapon, so she still had the advantage. "Take a punch from me first." Nangong Yun's red hair fluttered in the wind. Her right fist sent out a fierce fist wind that was like a giant hammer. It fiercely slammed into Feng Katie's surroundings, instantly dispersing a small part of the spirit energy Feng Kaidai had gathered. The entire stage began to shake. Feng Katie's body trembled. She had indeed underestimated Nangong Yun's destructive power. If Nangong Yun closed in on her, Feng Kaidai would not have any chance of winning. 9 heavens wind god, lend me your astral winds, the might of the heavens, lead with my sword. The divine wind sword led. The cyan spirit energy turned into dozens of sword chi. The dozens of cyan sword chi did not disperse. They were like dozens of glowing cyan curved blades that revolved around Feng Katie's body. They were currently revolving at a high speed that was hard to see with the naked eye, letting out a sharp cry. Was this the legendary wind and cloud sword song? Even the Chu family, who considered themselves to be a sword cultivator family, were shocked. They had never seen this kind of sword art before. It was actually able to produce dozens of sword chi at the same time. Furthermore, the sword chi was condensed and did not disperse. They revolved around one's body, and when it was time to kill the enemy, they would be released in one breath. It could defend one's body and also kill the enemy. This was truly an exquisite sword art. Feng Kaidai had underestimated Nan Gongyun. But Nan Gongyun was too careless. She should not have let Feng Kaidai make the first move. This wind and cloud sword song was already very powerful. Moreover, Feng Kaidai was borrowing the power of the divine wind sword to release sword qi. Would Nan Gongyun be able to withstand such an overwhelming attack? Everyone was sweating for Nan Gongyun. Nan Gongyun's eyes were filled with determination. She did not slow down at all. Like an arrow, she charged straight into Feng Kaidai's sword qi. A layer of crystal-like starlight condensed around her body. She savagely slammed into the sword qi. The crystal-like starlight began to crack, but it could not break through her defense. Isn't this Brother Lu's defensive cultivation technique? Feng Kaidai found that the defensive cultivation technique Nan Gongyun used was the same as Lu Ren's. This Nan Gongyun and Lu Ren must have some relationship, otherwise how could they practice the same cultivation technique? This defensive cultivation technique was too strong. Lu Ren could kill an awakened soul cultivator with his 9th body refinement layer cultivation. It was all because of this strong defensive cultivation technique. Feng Kaidai was worried that the wind and cloud sword song was too strong and would accidentally harm Nan Gongyun's life. But now she no longer had this worry. Go all out. The blue sword qi crisscrossed. It was like a storm as it charged forward. Nan Gongyun's wild spirit energy surged forward. Like a raging flame, it suddenly surrounded her body, heaven-burning fist. The two wild energies collided in the air. Nan Gongyun used her fist to shatter most of the sword qi. Everyone was stunned seeing this. This girl was too violent. She actually used her flesh and blood body to block the divine wind sword qi. This brute force made people's hairs stand on end. If a triple awakened soul cultivator was hit by this, they would not be able to stand up. Only there was too much sword qi. The angle of attack was different. Nan Gongyun shattered apart, but the rest still fell on Nan Gongyun's body, making Nan Gongyun's flying speed decrease. There were more and more cracks on the Starlight immortal body and the Starlight's repair speed could not keep up with the damage. Feng Kaidai was very cunning, she kept retreating while fighting. Wind-attributed cultivators were very fast, it was not easy for Nan Gongyun to catch up to her. Not to mention that the wind and cloud sword song was continuously attacking her and her speed was decreasing. Everyone could see it. Nan Gongyun was good at both offense and defense and she was very violent. Once they fought in close combat, Feng Kaidai would not be able to last more than a few rounds. Feng Kaidai's advantage was her speed. With the powerful divine wind sword and the powerful sword art, she could make up for the difference in attack power. Now it seemed like Feng Kaidai's speed was a lot faster than Nan Gongyun's and adding in the wind and cloud sword song's advantage was its continuous suppression. With the limited space on the stage, no matter where Nan Gongyun was, she would always be in Feng Kaidai's attack range. She would not have a chance to catch her breath. It was impossible for Nan Gongyun to catch up to Feng Kaidai under this pressure. Feng Kaidai's strategy was very clear, she was kiting her opponent. Nan Gongyun had a wild strength, but she could not use it. She was completely suppressed. The Starlight immortal body is about to break. Chu Tian knit his brows and said, Nan Gongyun will lose. Ah! Then what do we do? Yun Shao anxiously scratched his head. There was no need to doubt Chu Tian's eyes and now even Chu Tian felt that Nan Gongyun would lose. This fierce elder sister was most likely done for. Feng Qingyun gave a snort. His eyes flashed with a cold light. The people from the 4 great families were all whispering to each other. Feng Kaidai's potential was very strong and before long, the Central State 4 young masters would become the Central State 5 young masters. The mayor revealed a strange expression and said to Feng Yuntian with a smile, Elder brother, Kaidai's progress is very gratifying. Only he knew what he was thinking in his heart. Feng Yuntian's face was also filled with a smile. This was all because of that brat's efforts. Now everyone thought that Nan Gongyun's defeat was only a matter of time. Nan Gongyun was also very annoyed. Damn, he never thought that this stinky girl would be so hard to deal with. If he knew this earlier, he would have charged forward and punched her in the face. Now she was running as fast as a ghost. Could he catch her? If it was in the natural environment, Nan Gongyun would have retreated from her attack range and repaired the Starlight Immortal body. Then he would have chased after her and used his spirit energy to exhaust his opponent. But the arena space was very limited and the Wind Source Spirit's attack range was very far, so there was no place to hide. He was still in Feng Katie's attack range and could be said to be under intense attacks every second. The Starlight Immortal body's repair speed could not keep up with the damage. Was she really going to lose? The boss was watching from below. If she lost, she would lose too much face. Nan Gongyun was a very competitive person. She had arrogantly said that she would beat the boss, but if she lost in the competition, she would be too unwilling and too useless. But against Feng Kaidai, there was nothing she could do. No. She wasn't at the end of the line. There was one move that she couldn't use. Although she had not truly grasped it yet. Chapter 155. Nan Gongyun was completely suppressed by the wind and cloud sword song, so everyone thought that Feng Kaidai would be the winner. Nan Gongyun was not willing to admit defeat. It was not time to lose yet. When she left South Sky City for Central State City, Chu Tian had given her a cultivation technique, the Great Nirvana Scripture. At that time, Nan Gongyun thought that this Great Nirvana Scripture was a powerful cultivation technique like the Starlight Immortal body. When Nan Gongyun calmed her heart and carefully studied the Great Nirvana Scripture, she found that she was wrong. This Great Nirvana Scripture was an ancient cultivation technique. It was even stronger than the Starlight Immortal body, but it was also 10 times more complicated than the Starlight Immortal body. The materials needed to cultivate it were unheard of. It was a cultivation technique that could not be learned quickly. When Chu Tian gave her the Great Nirvana Scripture, he did not expect Nan Gongyun to learn it. Chu Tian did not bring back many top-level cultivation techniques from the future. Like the Starlight Immortal body, it seemed very powerful, but in Chu Tian's eyes, it was just a body-tempering cultivation technique. It was only suitable for the early to mid-stages, but a cultivation technique like the Great Nirvana Scripture could be practiced continuously. Chu Tian had several of these cultivation techniques in his hands, but because it was too hard to practice, the requirements were too high, and the materials needed were too hard to find, it was basically impossible to practice at this stage. The reason why Chu Tian gave the Great Nirvana Scripture to Nan Gongyun was because he hoped that Nan Gongyun could understand this profound cultivation technique as soon as possible. It would help her practice the burning the heaven art of the Nan Gong family. Nan Gongyun gave a loud roar and punched out, shattering several sword chi. Feng Katie's divine wind sword moved. 7/8 sword chi intertwined, trapping Nan Gongyun in a cage. Then this cage contracted and under the fierce pressure. Pang! Like glass shattering. The Starlight Immortal body's light exploded, turning into countless specks of light. Broken. It was finally broken. This strong defensive cultivation technique had finally been broken by Feng Kaidai. Feng Katie's attack frequency was too high, it was basically a continuous attack. Even with the Starlight Immortal body's defense, it couldn't block it. From this moment on, the outcome was already decided. Feng Kaidai had used up 60 to 70% of her spirit energy, while Nan Gongyun had only used up less than 30%. Feng Kaidai had used up even more spirit energy in exchange for an excellent opportunity to win. Stop fighting. You'll get hurt. Feng Kaidai knew that Nan Gongyi was related to Lu Ren, and now that her defense had been broken, Feng Kaidai did not want to hurt Nan Gongyi. Cut it out. I won't surrender. How could Nan Gongyun admit defeat? She condensed an enormous amount of elemental energy and prepared to launch an all-out counterattack. Feng Kaidai had no other choice seeing this because she could not afford to hesitate at all. Otherwise, if Nangong Yun used the Starlight Immortal body again, her remaining spirit energy would not be enough to fight another battle of attrition. He waved the Divine Wind Sword. The sword chi wandering around his body were like soldiers who had received orders, all of them began to move, at the same time enveloping Nangong Yun. Even if Nangong Yun's strength was strong, it was impossible for her to destroy all the sword chi attacks at once. Victory or defeat would be decided in an instant. At this critical moment, Nangong Yun suddenly gave a delicate shout. The entire Phantom Fire Phoenix was like a ball of gasoline that had met a flame. It began to burn. The flame was actually a golden red, filled with a holy aura. What is going on? Shen Fengho, the mayor, the 4 family heads, and the others all stood up in surprise, their eyes were filled with shock. This was not the Nangong family's burning the heaven art. Nangong Yun could no longer be seen, but a golden fire phoenix appeared in the air. The blue sword chi fell onto the fire phoenix, but not only did it not destroy the fire phoenix, it actually strengthened the fire phoenix. The wind helped the fire grow. The fire phoenix let out a long cry and charged at Feng Kaidai at a speed several times faster than before. Feng Kaidai was completely stunned facing this burning energy. She never would have thought that Nangong Yun, who was already at the end of her tether, would actually release such a strong counterattack. Nangong Yun's burning figure rushed out from the fire phoenix and punched at Feng Kaidai. The fist did not even reach her. The berserk energy directly tore apart her protective spirit energy. Feng Kaidai gave a muffled groan and spat out a mouthful of blood, falling out of the stage. Lost. In the end, Feng Kaidai still lost. Nangong Yun slowly landed on the ground, standing in the center of the stage. Her face was as white as paper. That attack had used up too much of her strength, making her unable to stand stably. Feng Kaidai slowly stood up. Her clothes were already burnt, making her look very miserable. But she knew that Nangong Yun had shown mercy at the end, so she did not suffer any injuries. She picked up the Divine Wind Sword and sheathed it at her waist. She cupped her hands towards Nangong Yun. Young Miss Nangong's skill is higher. Kaidai admits defeat. Consider yourself lucky. Nangong Yun had an ungrateful look. This old lady doesn't have enough spirit energy, otherwise with this punch, you wouldn't be able to get out of bed for half a year. This fellow really liked to show off. The mayor gave a sigh. It's a pity, it's a pity. Kaidai was too careless, otherwise with her strength, she could have easily won the championship. Ha, 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 a loss is a loss. Kaidai really can't beat the Nangong family's little girl. Shen Fengho gave 2 generous laughs. As for winning the championship, is that even possible? Even if she doesn't lose to the Nangong family's little girl, she still isn't your son's opponent. It's all the same, it's all the same. The mayor's eyes flashed a few times, but he smiled without saying a word. This competition was actually something he had deliberately arranged. The champion would not be Luo Jinshi, Yi Hen, Chu Wufeng, or even Nangong Yun. It would be a person that no one could think of. Boss, how is it? I'm very strong, right? Nangong Yun jumped off the stage, her face filled with excitement as she walked in front of Chu Tian. I feel like defeating you right now is an easy matter. Boss, don't blame me for not giving you face, I'll go easy on you. Chu Tian looked at her with disdain. You accidentally touched the surface of the great Nirvana scripture and coincidentally combined it with the Nangong family's burning the heavens art. Being able to use it was pure luck, yet you dare say you can beat me with just this little bit of skill? Nangong Yun snorted and said, we'll know once we try it in the finals. This was truly a wonderful battle. However, after Feng Kaidai and Nangong Yun's battle ended, there was no other good battle. The 6 stages all had their own champions. The 6 of them were Chu Wufeng, Luo Jinshi, Yi Hen, Nangong Yun, Lu Ren, and Feng Qingyun. There was no need to doubt the strength of the first four. As for Feng Qingyun and Chu Tian, they did not have a single good battle. Chu Tian did not even take out his sword as he fought his way to the end. Feng Qingyun had also easily defeated all of his opponents, making it hard for people to see his depths. The first place would be decided among these 6 people. The qualifiers are over. The qualifiers will begin. We ask the top 6 to step onto the main stage. Under everyone's gazes, the 6 champions walked onto the main stage and began the most important qualifiers. According to the rules of the Great Games, the top 6 would have the qualifications to enter the Central State Trial. These 6 people were not necessarily the top 6 of the Great Games. The Great Games would be divided into the qualifiers, ranking, and challenge rounds. The qualifiers had already ended and the 6 champions had been chosen. Next was the ranking round. The 6 people would first have a large battle and the judges would rank them according to their performance. Once the rankings were out, it would be time for the challenge rounds. If anyone else was not satisfied with the rankings, they could challenge anyone. As long as they could defeat anyone, they would be able to enter the top 6. It had always been 2 people fighting. It was finally time for the strongest battle. The ranking round was a 6-person battle. Anyone who was knocked off the stage or beaten until they could no longer fight would be eliminated. They would then be ranked according to their performance. On the stage, the 6 people were already in position. Chu Wufeng was a skinny youth. He wore the uniform of the Chu clan and carried a sword on his back. His appearance was rather mediocre, but his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, like a sharp sword that revealed its brilliance. Luo Jinshi was tall and sturdy with a rough face, just like a lion. He stood on the stage and a dignified aura filled the air, just like a lion standing on the prairie. Yi Hen had a medium build and his aura was restrained. His eyes were cold, giving off a sinister and strange feeling. He was just like a dangerous and deadly demon wolf hiding in the depths of the forest. The 3 of them appeared on stage. Everyone was stunned. These 3 were the most popular super geniuses in Central State Academy. Almost 80 to 90% of the people thought that the champion of the Great Games would be one of these 3. Of the other 3, Nangong Yun was the most eye-catching. Only after Feng Katie's intense battle, it was unknown if Nangong Yun had fully recovered. As for Feng Qingyun and Lu Ren, everyone shook their heads. Feng Qingyun was surnamed Feng, so he should be like Feng Kaidai, a member of the Central State City Feng family. Only, Feng Qingyun was an unknown person, so he did not seem like a strong person. That fellow named Lu Ren. This name meant that he was destined to be a passerby. Although he had a bit of skill, his performance was average. Being able to enter the finals stage was probably just pure luck. Even if Feng Qingyun was not famous, he still had an illustrious family background. Lu Ren was just a rogue cultivator, so what kind of skill could he have? The only thing that confused everyone was, why did Yun Xiao, who had a lot of potential, take the initiative to surrender to Lu Ren? But no matter what, no one thought highly of this person. The Great Games had not yet begun. The 6 of them began to look at each other. Chu Wufeng coldly looked at Chu Tian. You have a lot of potential, you shouldn't have offended the Chu family. I'll give you one last chance, give up on the competition and rely on the Chu family. You'll work for the Chu family and I'll ask the family head for leniency for you, allowing you to live. The Chu family has enough people, they won't care about one more servant. At this time, Luo Jinshi suddenly said, how about you rely on the Luo family? I'll personally guide you in your cultivation, what do you think? Yi Hen gave a cold snort and an invisible spiritual fluctuation was released. Other than working for the Ye family, you have no other choice. Otherwise, I will not let you leave this stage alive. Normal people did not know who Chu Tian was. The people from these large families had already investigated him. Although they did not know Chu Tian's true identity, he had blocked Chu Xinghe's sword and did not die, so this matter was very easy to investigate. There were even people who knew that he had a relationship with Qilin Hall. This person was worth roping in. Ha, 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 ha. Nan Gongyun couldn't help laughing. You really are popular. You make me feel jealous. There's no other way. For an outstanding and handsome person like me, I can't hide it no matter how hard I try. Chu Tian was still talking cheerfully. The three young masters were all enraged. This damn fellow, he actually did not place the words of the three of them in his eyes. At this time. Dang! A loud and long bell suddenly echoed in the sky. The finals had officially begun. Chapter 156. The finals began. Chu Wufeng, Luo Jinshi, and Yi Hen, the three super geniuses all placed their attention on Chu Tian. This unknown youth not only dared to provoke the entire Chu family, he didn't even give the three of them any face. Such an arrogant rogue cultivator. How could they tolerate him? Let's kill this hindrance first. Chu Wufeng first proposed, then we'll compare who's better and who's worse. Luo Jinshi said, that's exactly what I want. Yi Hen coldly said, a trivial rogue cultivator dares to look down on the three great families? Pay the price for your stupidity today. There are always some people in this world that you can't afford to offend. According to your thoughts, if you invite me to be a servant in your family, should I be overwhelmed by this favor and cry tears of gratitude? Chu Tian revealed a helpless expression. Your brain circuits are really different from the others. It would be easy for any one of us to kill you. We'll let you keep your life and let you be a dog in the family. This is also a great gift to you. Luo Jinshi loudly roared, don't waste time. Since you don't want face. Kill him. When the three of them were about to make a move. Ha, 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 ha. At this time, a wild laugh rang out. Other than Chu Tian, the youngest youth on the stage slowly walked out. Yi Hen coldly said, do you think this is funny? I just don't understand you three pieces of trash. What qualifications do you have to be this wild? In front of countless surprised gazes, Feng Qingyun proudly walked to the center of the stage. In front of everyone, he said a shocking sentence, you think you're invincible in Central State City with just this little bit of skill? You're just a few frogs in a well. At this moment, Feng Qingyun seemed like a different person. His eyes were filled with rebelliousness and his body was filled with a demonic arrogance. His blue robe moved without any wind, and if one looked carefully, they would find that there were countless small tornadoes forming around Feng Qingyun. Luo Jinshi angrily said, what did you say? Feng Qingyun slowly floated up and an invisible strength supported his body. I said. You're all pieces of trash that only know how to bark like dogs. The faces of the three geniuses became incomparably ugly. The faces of the people from the three great clans also became very gloomy. Apart from the four great young masters, who else would look down on them? They were the super geniuses of the Middle State's younger generation, second only to the four young masters. Now, a fellow whom they had never even heard of actually dared to spout such arrogant words and viewed them as trash. How could they tolerate such an insult? Nan Gongyun was also surprised. The aura released by Feng Qingyun was becoming stronger and stronger, making it hard for her to see through him. Although this fellow was extremely arrogant, there was one thing that could not be denied, he was much stronger than she had imagined. Feng Kaidai sighed. He seemed to be helpless as well. Listening to these three pieces of trash barking is really too noisy. I've had enough. Feng Qingyun gave a wild laugh. Don't waste time, this young master will give you a chance. The three of you can come at me together. Everyone was shocked. He was arrogant enough to humiliate the three geniuses for no reason, and he was even arrogant enough to challenge all three geniuses at the same time. She was the person with the highest hopes of becoming the champion in this competition. The Chu family, the Luo family, and the Ye family all had dark expressions on their faces. Feng Qingyun was the mayor's son, and daring to act so arrogantly on the stage, he must have obtained the mayor's permission or even the mayor's permission. No wonder the principal had given out the quota. This was prepared for their Feng family. Feng Kaidai had been defeated by Nangong Yun, so Feng Qingyun could at least obtain a quota. What no one could have imagined was that the Feng family was not satisfied with obtaining a quota. They even wanted their own secret genius to step over the geniuses of the other three families. Mayor Feng Yunlong was very satisfied with this result. His son should be like this. The people of Central State only knew of the four young masters, but the Feng family was the most powerful family, but they could not send out a single person to compete with the four young masters. Where would the mayor put his face? Feng Qingyun's powerful appearance was to step over the geniuses of the other three families. After this battle, everyone would understand that the Feng family had a genius that was not inferior to the four young masters, or even surpassed the four young masters. This was Feng Yunlong's son. Shameless boasting. The three geniuses could not take it anymore. Chu Wufeng took the initiative to attack. With a king sound, his treasured sword flew into the sky. A vast and sharp sword aura filled the air. Chu Wufeng held the glowing treasured sword in the air and his spirit energy condensed into a purple sword source spirit. That surging energy flowed into the treasured sword like a river. Soul Sword Secret Art. Heaven Cutting Art. A terrifying sword aura that seemed like it could split the heavens and earth was condensed to its peak in a short period of time. Soul, sword, and person, the three seemed to fuse into one. You dare boast shamelessly. Then feel the anger of the Chu family's sword. When Chu Wufeng released his sword qi, it was like the air itself was being torn apart by his sword. A deep sword mark appeared on the arena, as if it was being cut apart like a piece of paper. That destructive sword qi instantly arrived in front of Feng Qingyun. Heaven Cutting Art. The strongest move of the Soul Sword Secret Art. When Chu Tian met Chu Xinghe in the city, Chu Xinghe had used this move to deal with him. Even if they were in the same realm, Chu Tian was almost unable to block it. This was the first time since Chu Tian came to this world that he had suffered a loss against someone in the same realm. The might of this move could be seen from this. Chu Wufeng's attainments in the Soul Sword Secret Art of the Chu family were much lower than Chu Xinghe's, but he had still reached the large success realm. This slash was filled with charm and there were not many triple awakened soul experts that could block it. While everyone was thinking about how Feng Qingyun would block it. Puchi. Feng Qingyun's body was cut in half by the sword qi. Everyone's eyes popped out. Feng Qingyun was so arrogant, but he couldn't even block a single slash. While everyone was confused, the two halves of Feng Qingyun's body suddenly became blurry. Like a gust of wind, it was blown away without a trace. Countless strands of blue energy appeared in the air and once again gathered into Feng Qingyun's appearance. What is going on? It actually didn't hit. Every spectator was dumbfounded. Even the people from the four great clans were shocked. Chu Xinghe's eyes slightly narrowed and he coldly said, his source spirit is wind, so he should have obtained some kind of wind inheritance. The cultivation technique he practices is different from the Feng families. That's right. Feng Qingyun's source spirit was wind. Pure wind. There were many types of source spirits and one of them was a pure elemental source spirit. It did not have any form and was just a pure energy. This kind of source spirit was very rare and had both advantages and disadvantages. In most cases, the advantages outweighed the disadvantages. It wasn't like there was no precedent for an elemental source spirit. The purple lightning young master Yun Yao's source spirit was thunder, but it was pure thunder and lightning. It did not have any form, so Yun Yao also had an elemental source spirit. Feng Qingyun was the same as Yun Yao, only his attribute was wind. Not only did Feng Qingyun have a pure wind source spirit, he also seemed to have obtained some kind of ancient inheritance. The cultivation technique he practiced allowed his body to become invisible like the wind, allowing him to ignore all attacks. This was a very high-grade cultivation technique. Not only did he have a source spirit that was not inferior to the four young masters, he was also someone who had obtained an ancient inheritance after Chu Xinghe. He had the strength and potential to stand shoulder to shoulder with the four young masters. Even if they were at the same level, it would be hard for Chu Wufeng and the others to fight against Feng Qingyun. Luo Jinshi said to Yi Hen, use a spiritual attack to deal with him. Yi Hen's eyes began to ripple and then he knit his brows, this won't do. He looks like he's not moving, but he's actually drifting. I can't lock onto him at all. What's wrong? You three barking mad dogs only have this little ability. Feng Qingyun stood in the air with a high and mighty appearance. His voice drifted in the air, as unfathomable as the wind. Young Miss Nangong, I can already see that you are stronger than any of these three wastes. You are the only one here that has the qualifications to be my opponent. Feng Qingyun's body became blurry, just like a drop of ink falling into water. When he said this, his eyes fell onto Chu Tian's body. As for you, a piece of trash like you, I disdain to make a move. Cripple your own cultivation. Scram. A strange cultivation technique. A powerful innate talent. Feng Qingyun was not a normal kind of wild, he had already become the ruler of the great games. Feng Qingyun enjoyed this kind of feeling. He had displayed an undefeatable strength, so this piece of trash should have some self-awareness. He could cripple his own cultivation and scram. Or he could die. Chu Tian softly said, what if I don't do it? Then I'll personally send you on your way. Feng Qingyun's figure flickered a few times, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. It was like he was constantly teleporting as he charged at Chu Tian. Chu Tian's right hand slowly reached behind his back and grabbed the netherworld sword's hilt. The cold-as-ice sword was slowly pulled out. Why are there so many idiots in this world that think they're infallible? A wild aura was released from Chu Tian's body. When the long sword that was as cold as 10,000-year-old ice was pulled out, a black ancient sword source spirit appeared behind him. This source spirit was something that Central State had never seen before, but the aura it gave off was hard to imagine. It was filled with an endless destructive power, as if it came from the hands of a demon god. A purple sword glow tore through the air. Chu Tian did not care about the flickering Feng Qingyun as he thrust his sword at the air in front of him. That powerful sword intent was released along with the sword chi, creating a crack in the ground. A green figure was struck out from the void. Impossible. Feng Qingyun looked at his chest in disbelief. There was a wound that was still bleeding, you can see through my movements. Why? At this moment, Feng Qingyun felt an invisible strength constantly scanning his body. His pupils suddenly shrank, it's the mind's eye. You've opened the mind's eye. That's right. The moment Chu Tian swung his sword, he had already opened the mind's eye. This fellow's cultivation technique was not as terrifying as most people thought it was. Feng Qingyun's body was not elemental, he was just hiding his body and creating a realistic illusion to mislead others. This was a bit similar to the Chu Ming he met at the beginning. But Feng Qingyun did not just have a strong hiding ability, he also had a very strange movement technique. Even Chu Tian would find it hard to see through this movement technique. Feng Qingyun could change his position 5-6 in an instant. Chu Wufeng could not hit him at all, he could only hit an afterimage of the wind. This cultivation technique had its merits, it was an ancient cultivation technique that was not weaker than the Netherworld Flame Sword. If his cultivation was a bit higher, his speed was a bit faster, or his cultivation technique was a bit deeper, then even if Chu Tian used the mind's eye, it would be hard for him to see through it. But Feng Qingyun was still too young, his cultivation was only at the triple awakened soul realm. What's wrong? Are you surprised? When you're mocking others for being frogs at the bottom of a well, why don't you think that you're also a frog at the bottom of a well? These words were like a loud slap to Feng Qingyun's face. Even in his dreams, Feng Qingyun never would have thought that the fellow he looked down on the most would be able to break the movement technique he was so proud of. Mayor Feng Yunlong's face also turned dark. This matter had completely surpassed his expectations. Where did this brat come from? He was clearly only at the second awakened soul layer. Chu Tian's blade began to burn with blue and white flames. He looked at Nan Gongyun beside him. Just watch the show. I'll take care of these 4 pieces of trash. The entire great assembly fell into a deathly silence. Feng Qingyun was crazy enough to say he wanted to fight 3 of them alone. This unknown youth was even more arrogant. Other than Chu Wufeng's group of 3, he wanted to take care of Feng Qingyun as well. What kind of situation was this? Why was this development so unexpected? How was this a competition? This was simply a test of everyone's hearts. The competition had already surpassed everyone's expectations. Chapter 157. The 3 family heads all stood up. Damn! Who was this bastard? What right did he have to be this arrogant? The Feng family had been in Central State City for over 10 years, but they had not raised a single genius. This time, they finally managed to make a name for themselves. Although they had lost face for the 3 great families, they still owed them a favor. What did this young man count for? He was just a trivial rogue cultivator. Not to mention that it was impossible for him to have this kind of strength, even if he did, suppressing the 3 great families in front of everyone and trampling on their dignity. Wasn't this just seeking death? Of course, the angriest person right now was the Central State City Mayor Feng Yunlong. The mayor had spent a lot of effort to make his son Feng Qingyun shine. He had even used his little brother's position as the Central State Academy's principal to forcefully change the rules of the competition. This Feng Qingyun had been sent out to cultivate at the age of 10 and obtained an ancient wind-attributed cultivation technique at the age of 15. He was only 17 this year and already had a triple awakened soul cultivation base. To have this kind of achievement at this age, even in Imperial City, he was considered a great genius. Feng Qingyun had the chance to break through to the 4th awakened soul layer before the age of 20 and become a strong illustrious soul realm expert. At that time, other than Chu Xinghe, there was no one in Central State that could compare to Feng Qingyun. This competition was the stage that the mayor had set for Feng Qingyun. What was the current situation? A rogue cultivator had appeared out of nowhere. Not only was he around the same age as Feng Qingyun, he had suppressed Feng Qingyun's aura with a lower cultivation base. He had a strong source spirit. He had opened the mind's eye that cultivators yearned for. His sword art was not inferior to the Chu family swordsman, it had a very strong attack power. The shock that he gave everyone when he made a move was even above Feng Qingyun's. Feng Qingyun's limelight had been completely stolen. How could the mayor not be angry? Yun Tianhe's heart was also secretly shocked. He really was worthy of being able to change his grandson Yun Zhao's body in just 3 days. His sword source spirit's aura was very strong, it contained an ancient aura that was not inferior to Nan Gongyun's god-level source spirit. It was an innate attack type. Just with this source spirit, Chu Tian's battle strength had increased by several times. Therefore, it was not strange for him to be able to instantly kill experts of the same level, and even possess the ability to challenge those of a higher level. Chu Tian had also unlocked the mind's eye that cultivators yearned for even in their dreams. He was able to see through his opponent's cultivation technique and power, thus allowing him to predict his opponent's movements and easily obtain victory. What a miraculous young man! Feng Qingyun's face was as dark as water and a dense killing intent was released from his body, causing the surrounding air to tremble. Don't think that you can restrain me just because you have the mind's eye. I'll let you see my true strength now. Feng Qingyun was like a drop of ink falling into clear water, instantly scattering and turning into blue energy. Several dozen wind blades and wind spears flew at Chu Tian like a wild storm. It was too fast. Feng Qingyun's movement technique was very good. He could change his position several times in an instant. It was impossible for anyone to figure it out, much less attack it. His sword source spirit released a destructive might. With a gentle wave of the netherworld sword, a dark purple sword chi was released. The wind blades and wind spears that came from different directions were all easily cut apart. After Feng Qingyun finished gathering his strength, he gave an angry roar that was like the roar of a wild wind. His source spirit once again released a large amount of wind-attributed spirit energy, stirring up the air in the area and forming a several-meter-tall tornado. It was a blue tornado. It was purely made of wind-attributed spirit energy. Countless small wind blades continued to form, just like a terrifying meat grinder. Wherever it went, nothing could stop it. Feng Qingyun's ancient cultivation technique was not an assassination technique. Although he could hide himself and create illusions, it was just a side effect. The true killing move of this cultivation technique was its extremely fast speed and destructive might. Feng Qingyun had already disappeared. Feng Qingyun was hidden in the giant tornado, using the thick wind spirit energy to interfere with his divine sense. With Chu Tian's current strength, he could not see through the tornado and lock onto Feng Qingyun's position. If he could not determine his position, how could he defeat the other side? I want you to die. As soon as Feng Qingyun's voice rang out, the giant tornado disappeared. It turned into a blue stream of wind blades that charged at Chu Tian. Chu Tian dodged to the side and countless wind blades fell like a storm where he was just standing, causing the center of the stage to cave in. Then the wind blades revolved around each other at a high speed, once again forming a large tornado. Powerful. Most people could not see it clearly. The tornado turned into a blue stream that moved from one position to another, as if it could teleport. The destructive might of the entire process was like tens of thousands of blades flying through the air. It was very terrifying. Actually, the tornado was formed from Feng Qingyun's source spirit energy, so it was always around Feng Qingyun. Whenever Feng Qingyun moved with his ghostly movement technique, this powerful energy would move with him. It could quickly sweep through an army, easily breaking through the enemy's formation. It was as powerful as 10,000 kilograms, destroying everything in its path. Ha, 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 ha. How will you break this move of mine? The young man's simple gray robe was fluttering in the wind. His ordinary face was as calm as an ancient well without ripples. His eyes were as black as stars, reflecting the tornado. A smile gradually appeared at the corner of his mouth. Calm, everything was under control. Die. Feng Qingyun attacked again. The young man gently raised the blade that was as smooth as an ice mirror, and blue and white netherworld ghost flames came out, instantly swallowing Chu Tian's body. When the flames scattered, they had already disappeared without a trace. Feng Qingyun had disappeared. Chu Tian had also disappeared. The two of them had disappeared at the same time. Feng Qingyun could not find his target, but he gave a cold laugh. You think that I can't do anything to you just because you're hiding? The azure tornado spun at an even higher speed, and an extremely terrifying suction force seemed to want to devour everything around it. Countless wind blades spread out, and a terrifying tearing and cutting power swept across a large area. Wherever it passed, nothing was left unscathed. Chu Wufeng, Luo Jinshi, and Yi Hen's expressions all changed. They had no choice but to retreat to avoid being sucked in. Netherworld flickering flame slash. At this moment, a burning sword glow shot into the storm. It's no use, you can't break through my defenses and you can't hit me. Feng Qingyun was very confident. Fusing with the tornado, he could appear anywhere in the tornado. The burning sword glow slashed into the blue tornado, and like a match being thrown inside, large amounts of wind blades were swept by the burning sword glow. They were immediately touched by the blue and white flames and were actually ignited. What? Feng Qingyun did not have time to be surprised. Another burning sword light slashed out from another direction, slashing at the tornado again and injecting more netherworld ghost flames into it. The third slash. The fourth slash. The fifth slash. Chu Tian's sword was too fast. Dozens of flaming sword lights crisscrossed and circled around the green tornado. They were constantly nibbling away at the green tornado. Unexpectedly, the green tornado was under control. The blue and white flames continued to pour into the tornado, igniting the wind spirit energy. The more it burned, the bigger it became. In just a moment, the tornado had turned into half fire and half wind. The terrifying will-o'-the-wisp continued to burn, and the entire tornado was about to be completely ignited. Fire-suppressing wind. Fire-suppressing wind. The faster Feng Qingyun's spirit energy moved, the faster the netherworld ghost flames could spread. This time Feng Qingyun was completely panicked. Standing in the center of the tornado, he couldn't control his own strength at all. He was surrounded by the terrifying blue ghost flames in all directions, and that terrifying strength surrounded him. No! Damn! Damn! Feng Qingyun angrily roared out. Mayor Feng Yunlong also angrily stood up. He angrily glared at the burning tornado, just like a barrel of gunpowder that was about to be ignited. Shen Fengho sat in his seat rubbing his chin, revealing an interested expression. All the large families were shocked by Chu Tian's strange sword art. The sword technique displayed by this rogue cultivator was completely unheard of. He couldn't see the person, only the sword light. The sword light flickered in the void, as though it had escaped from the netherworld. The might of each sword strike was extremely tyrannical. He had never seen an assassin-type cultivation technique that could continuously attack. When Chu Tian was at the first awakened soul layer, he had used the netherworld flame sword flickering flame slash, to defeat the triple awakened soul expert Chu Tongwen. Chu Tian was already at the second awakened soul layer. This netherworld flame sword had also been cultivated to a higher realm, so its might had also increased. In this kind of situation, when combined with the mind's eye, each slash was very precise. Before Feng Qingyun could react, the entire tornado had been ignited. After several dozen slashes, everything was already irreversible. Ah! Ah! Feng Qingyun's angry roars turned into pitiful screams. He was now trapped in his own trap. He had released all of his spirit energy, but he never thought that it would become fuel for the netherworld flame. Now that he was surrounded by the netherworld flame, how could he be safe? When Chu Wufeng, Luo Jinshe, and Yi Hen saw this, they all had serious expressions. This rogue cultivator's sword art was very strong. The three of them knew that they wouldn't be able to defend against such an unpredictable sword technique. Let's go together. Now was not the time to care about face. If they didn't work together to deal with him, they would not be a match for this rogue cultivator at all. Rather than losing, it was better to lose a bit of face. Yi Hen's spiritual attack ignored distance, so he was the fastest to attack. When Chu Tian finished his attack and appeared, Yi Hen suddenly launched a sneak attack. A pair of rippling eyes released a strong spiritual energy. Chu Tian felt his head go dizzy. The entire world fell into darkness. His hands and feet were tied to a bloody torture rack, and Yi Hen was standing not far away with a long whip in his hand. There were all kinds of torture racks around him with all kinds of torture tools. Humph, 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 no matter how mysterious your sword art is, when you fall into my hands, there is only death for you. You can only blame yourself for being too arrogant. Yi Hen walked over with a proud expression. I am the only master of this spiritual world. An instant outside is several hours inside. I have enough time to torture you. I'll make you beg for life, and I'll make you beg for death. I'll make your mind collapse. The flow of time in the spiritual world was different from the flow of time in the material world. Yi Hen could torture a person in the spiritual world for several hours, but when he returned to the outside world, it would only be an instant. This kind of terrifying spiritual attack could not be blocked with normal defensive cultivation techniques. This was one of the areas that Yi Hen was the most proud of. The third generation of the Ye family. Prince Tianlang, Yi Tianlang, had made a fool of himself in South Sky City. This allowed Yi Hen to see an opportunity. His talent was not inferior to his cousin Yi Tianlang's. Now that Yi Tianlang's reputation had been greatly damaged, this was a good chance for him to take over. This rogue cultivator was very strong, even Feng Qingyun had been defeated by him. If he could kill this fellow in one fell swoop, then Yi Hen's reputation would become even more famous. He would become the pillar of the third generation of the Ye family. Yi Hen revealed a fiendish smile and said, "Accept your punishment." This kind of low-level spiritual illusion technique can only be used to deal with a country bumpkin that hasn't seen the world before. The chains that bound his hands and feet began to shatter and the bloody torture rack turned to ashes. "You think you can deal with me?" Chu Tian fell to the ground and stretched his body. "Playing illusion techniques with me? You're far from it." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.